throws in the flat. Pass is complete to Clayton. First down and then some. Goodbye, Mark Clayton. To the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Incredible.
This is 365 Sports.
Motion by Oliver. Lucky will go the other way on the option. Pulls it down. Touchdown, Aggies.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
McNabb, straight back. Left side, he's all alone. It's a touchdown. Conrad. A defensive breakdown, and Conrad was all alone. He goes into the end zone for the second touchdown. Nobody was over there.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Maurice Claret is the tailback, or the single back. He's got it. He's got a touchdown.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Hello, end zone. Won't catch it. LaMichael James, and ladies and gentlemen, right now, this young man is a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. 365 Sports on a gorgeous Wednesday afternoon, at least where we are in Central Texas. Hopefully it's like that where you are too. We will take you up until around 6 o'clock. We start most every afternoon right about 3. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak, and we appreciate your time. Thanks to our great sponsors, those of you who watch us, if you do. And obviously, if you're watching us now on YouTube and also Twitter at 365 Sports YT. We will have a couple of polls to get to, and of course, Andrew Valade will have that up for us throughout the show. So, Paul, you set this one out. NCAA lobbying money. This is, of course, as they get closer to whatever is the decision, thrown out extra resources, spent nearly $500,000 million on federal lobbying in the first quarter of this year alone. Disclosures reviewed by Front Office Sports. Amanda Kristovich had this story. Double what it spent at this time, same period last year.
Yeah, you know, I find funny about this is $450,000 in today's lobbying climate. Like, what are you trying to do? Get a street named? I mean, what are you like? You're trying to get legislation done, and you're not even to a second friggin' comma. Like, this is a joke. Yeah. Look, if you want to get something moved, you got to move those commas, baby. You can't be throwing out $450,000. The other thing this says, though, to me, in a larger sense, is this is the NCAA trying to get somebody else to solve their problems, a group that has repeatedly told them, without actually saying it, through all these hearings and no bills, right? They have all these hearings and there's no bills being introduced. None of that. So you know what that means if you have hearings? It means you're entertaining the idea of it, but if there's nothing that's actionable on it in the Congress's mind, despite the climate that they don't really feel the need to fix it for you. They don't feel the need to get fully involved above all the other things. So this is the NCAA trying to get Congress to fix this and codify something, but what they really need to do to get Congress on board with that is come up with their own plan and give it to Congress. The example I will give you is the Affordable Care Act. I know everybody has a lot of different, ideas about, what the government's role in healthcare should be. But when they were going to pass that, they went to the insurance lobbies and let them write most of the bill. And so the insurance companies then wrote the bill, gave it to Congress and said, this is what we can live with here. And that's what the NCAA is going to have to do. They're going to have to essentially write the bill and work in all the legalities around it and then give it to Congress and go, can you do this for us? Because Congress is not, especially not now in the way things work, they're not going to author legislation. So this is, once again, the NCAA trying to get Congress to fix things in kind of a might makes right thing, and I just don't think it's going to happen.
Greg, anything else to add to that?
I have
It's
nothing
a lot.
to add to that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have nothing on the political front that I have to add to the same old back and forth that we've been talking about for a couple of years now at this point. Paul can be that guy to kind of break it down, and I think he said enough to clarify what's going on there. But, yeah, I got nothing to add to that.
Yeah, and we've brought this up before about how much money is being spent through the last 3 to 4 or 5 years because of so much legal action. The NCAA, this is just in the first quarter of what is nearly $500,000.
Okay, so even still, let's just say that they get to $2 million by the end of the year. That's still not enough to move the needle for a lot of the people who are going to need it. So I think it's kind of strange. And look, I know we don't want to talk about this. I just want to provide.
I really don't.
I know. I just I'm talking about this, want to educate, just kind of explain.
Oh, I think everybody understands that lobbyists are the ones that get things done.
Yeah, I mean, so. And look, that's why they hired a politician as the head of the NCAA. They hired Charlie Baker because they thought he could get this done, and maybe he can, but Charlie needs to sit down and write a bill. That's what Charlie needs to do.
That's a mouthful, man. I know you get into that, but the whole thing is the NCAA spending money because they can't get it done themselves. Isn't that the Cliff Notes?
Yeah.
God, so much money being wasted. I saw this. Heather Dinich had a story. Ohio State AD Ross Bjork, formerly was at A&M too. They had the meeting this week, of course, the college football playoff. They released the dates for the 2025 playoff schedule. A critical component that they need to consider the playoff format and how it affects. They had Chris Del Conte. They had Notre Dame's Pete Bavacqua, and then also Penn State AD Pat Kraft. These were the three of the other, along with Bjork, the 4 teams that made it to the semifinals. We've had so many disruptions over the past 5 years. I think it's time now to not be reactive but proactive. He was discussing the fact that the way they have the college football playoff laid out, that you don't even go to class. You have to then, as a university and athletic department, send advisors, tutors on the road to be a part of this because they're just not in class. And he also said some athletes missed class and the school had to apply for waivers around the countable athletic-related activities, CARA, which limits schools to 20 hours of practice time while classes are in session. Remember, I've brought this up. How many of the student athletes, this is just about being a part of college athletics, whether in the transfer portal or not, how many of them are actually progressing towards what they need and what also is a part of the how teams can lose scholarships or get fined, graduating, by the way, which is still a part of why you go to college.
But they have to be to transfer. They have to have their grades right. Now, do they actually finish and graduate? Like if you've been to 4 schools in 5 years, that's really muddy on where everything's going to line up for you. But they're progressing. Are they progressing towards a degree that's going to help them do anything? Are they just doing it to do it? I mean, there's a lot of other factors then. Are they really going to get a degree? Eventually, but are they really focusing on said degree, which I think needs to be the work-school balance of this is, okay, if you're going to go to school, let's make sure we balance this out a little bit, and let's be doing something that's productive for you in case, for the day that sports are over.
I remember 2 years ago when NIL really started going, we had a bunch of people in chat that were telling us the degrees were basically worthless and they meant nothing. Y'all remember that? The degrees were nothing compared to the NIL money. Everybody was just going to be suddenly making $200,000 a piece, and that not, most of these guys were going to actually have to lean on their degree to get work and money and lives put together. They weren't going to be able to rely on the NFL dream necessarily. And so, you knew this was a reckoning that was coming at some point of expand the playoff, add all these games, have all this travel with these new conferences, all these new obligations due to NIL. Where does the class come into play? That's the anchor of the entire sport. It's not the football. It's the classroom. It's the university. And I do feel like that's gotten completely put on the back burner for the most part in the general discussions about everything. It's when do we need to have this portal, and when do we need to have this signing period, and when do we need to have this? And oh yeah, what about class? It's always like the last thing that's brought up. And so I'm not sitting here saying that, I'm some bookworm that, was obsessed with education and all that, or that there's not some bit of a grift that does go on when it comes to athletes and getting their degrees and all of that. But I do think there's been this big, broad brushstroke of just kind of pushing that to the side, all for the sake of the playoff and the portal and all of these things. And so I'm glad to see that somebody is actually going, oh, yeah, what about class? And what about all these missing hours? And what about, like, why we were here originally? So that's kind of refreshing to hear that. Then again, it's the 80 at Texas and the 80 at Ohio State. So, like, if you guys aren't part of the problem, then hopefully you are part of the solution. And if anybody's going to be able to get it done, then I would think it would be two guys in those positions. So maybe because it is two very prominent athletic directors along with others, then there will be a quicker reaction to this. But yeah, when you actually do sit and think about it, like, how often does school even get brought up in the conversation anymore? And like, I'm not here to sit there and make sure kids are in class and all of that. Like, I know we mentioned Joe Burrow yesterday, did like all online classes when he was at LSU and all that. So there's ways to still get things done that aren't the traditional manner. But yeah, like, it's still college football. So yeah, I wonder where that kind of was the last couple of years in the grand discussion, because it's all been so money driven.
Well, these are non-traditional problems now, right?
Yeah.
So they require non-traditional answers.
Well, and we know that if you don't have somebody step up and do it, there are people that will just sit in place because it's what they know.
Yeah.
And they won't react to anything, and they'll just go with the way it's always been until, in the NCAA's case in particular, the dam is bursting and they're like, oh crap, by the way, like, now what do we do? So you sat on your hands for 10 years. And so, yeah, I'm glad that people are being proactive and not, this becomes another crisis and all of a sudden, oh, now what do we do about it?
Yeah. So that means that if you're going to be like, that's the other thing I think they're going to have to do. And this is maybe the hardest thing that they have to do in regard to this. If you're going to be a student athlete, and that is essentially a full-time job because of the hours that are required, Smokey, you mentioned about practice and how much practice they can have during the week versus classes.
20
and all
hours
that.
is supposed to be 20.
Yeah, 20 hours and all these things, and enforcing that. The other thing you might have to do is you might have to look at the student athlete model of student athlete versus traditional student. If you're a traditional student and you don't have to be at practice 5 days a week and you don't have to be watching film and, doing all these extra things, well, your experience and this person's experience are not the same. So we need to stop trying to make everybody live by the same schedule, because it's not the same. It's never been the same. And so trying to pretend like it is anymore, especially considering that you've invested a lot of capital from.
You mean the academic progress to a degree schedule?
No, I'm talking about the schedule of their life.
All right. Okay.
The schedule of their life. So what you do is, instead of making a student athlete have a student athlete schedule and a traditional student schedule, you build their life around doing both and flowing it through better, which I think is the biggest problem, is that, and look, you don't want to just have athlete classes and non-athlete classes, but you need to have maybe like, as if you're a regular student, your road to a degree is pretty straight, right? I mean, your road to what your day is pretty straight. You get up in the morning, you go to this class, you go to that class, you go home. You do whatever you do in your life. And then the next day you might have 3 classes instead of 2. Well, if you're an athlete, I mean, your road winds a lot more. So make a schedule that also winds with them. I think that's the thing that's going to have to happen.
From Jayhawk Champ, the days these athletes are on campus, remotely experiencing what students like me experienced is over. There's a lot.
Yeah.
By the way, for the most part, it's dead in the traditional sense. I mean, there's still guys that are gals going to classes and things, but yeah, I mean, in the traditional sense that you think of, where it's all like this community and they're just like you. Like, no, that's not the case anymore. They're driving cars that they don't have to hide anymore. Like, oh, don't look at the football players' parking lot too closely. Now it's just like, hey, look at all those Hummers and whatever else you want to throw in, the Lambos and everything else. It's a different world. I do think there's some semblance of that in places, but definitely like the Joe Burrow thing. Like, I remember when I first heard that, I was like, oh, well, this is a totally new era. That dude's just doing online classes for a year, and he's barely even like walking on LSU's campus unless he's going to practice or to the stadium or whatever. So yeah, it's a different world.
Also, Bjork shared with us, and then we'll move on to something else, that while they were chasing the national title, Ohio State's academic advisors traveled with the team to the semifinal and national title game. Some athletes missed class, and the school had to apply again those waivers. So that's also, now listen, they're making what, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, whatever it is. So it's part of, you're going to be good in football, then you're going to also have some extras with it. You're still going to make a lot of money, but it is still, and I've been to some colleges where they have the academic advisor area and they built these things, and it's probably more difficult. And do the athletes pay attention? Some do. Some care that they get the degree.
Most
do. But some are also knowing that in 3 years they're going to leave football, go to the NFL, or try to. And some, of course, in basketball are there for 1 year. If not even really a full year.
Also, I'll just throw this out there. I don't think NIL has changed that aspect of it, in that most of the athletes that are going to school, even the ones that are getting NIL, are going to go to school and they're going to finish. They're going to do the thing, because that's what most human beings do. Now, there might now be a larger aspect of that, of people who are just chasing NIL and going to a couple classes is the way that you get it, because now that you make money, so that part of the I don't have to really care about school has probably increased. But I think it's the smaller portion. But there are people like Boogie Fland from Arkansas that, do you think he gave a crap about what classes he was actually in? I mean, he might have done well in them, but like his whole plan was to go to school for a year and then leave.
I'm much less, and again, I'm not trying to keep these tabs on these people's academics. It's not my business. Ultimately, they do what they do. But if I am somebody who is in tune with that, then I'd be much less worried about NIL and much more worried about the transfer portal. How the hell are you getting a degree when you've been at 4 schools in 4 years? Like, you can make all the money in the world and still go get your degree, no problem, Poppy. Like, you can go get it later on down the road. You made enough money, you circle back 5 years later, and you go take those last 14 hours you need or whatever. And, hey, that was the benefit of NIL, that you were comfortable enough to be able to do that or whatever. That has no bearing in my mind on getting your degree. But transferring and knowing how messy that can be with credits from one place to the other, I know that there's tutors and academic people and all that get that in order. And clearly you're able to bounce around, so there's not too many issues. But I just don't know what you're working towards half the time. If you're going 4 schools in 5 years, I don't know what that's adding up to ultimately. And guess what? You're probably not making very good money, because the best players aren't going to 4 schools in 5 years.
Exactly.
Like, they're not. They're going to one place and making a ton of dough, or they're going to maybe 2. And if they're going to 2, then they're making a big bunch of dough on top of, like the best players are doing that. The guys who are at their 4th school, they're not making great money. They're not making money that's just going to like, hey, I graduate and I'm going to sit on this for years. So, yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's better to be proactive than reactive. A lot of this stuff is, I don't know how of interest it is to the general college football fan, but for those that are in the weeds on it, like, yeah, these are the types of issues that kind of just get glossed over because people are just like, oh, look, money, and oh, look, transfer portal, and it's still a college at the end of the day. So where does that come into play?
I agree. By the way, you have 2 friends that you refer to. We need to meet them, and Poppy and Boo Boo.
No, I'm not trying to do like Dan Lebatard. That was just something that came out. But yeah, I mean, that just
I'm kidding. Now, we said we're not going to bring him up, but there is news on Jaden Rashada. The lawsuit filed by Rashada against Florida head coach Billy Napier will be a year in 2 or 3 months from now. All the depositions filed by sometime October 1st, but that trial is at least on schedule now for July, late July, which is towards the end of the summer. Not this year, but next.
Well, I think the reason I sent this to you guys is that I think this case, when it comes to buyouts, obligations, collectives, and all that, is going to be very telling down the line for what the rules are going to be. Because this is going to, since it's going to go to trial, this is going to kind of expose all the things that the collective did wrong and that Jaden Rashada might have done wrong. On the surface, it didn't look like he did much wrong. They foolishly said, hey, before you come here, we're going to give you this much money, and it's going to be deposited in your bank account by February 1st or whenever that was.
Right.
And then February 1st came around, and the direct deposit didn't hit, and he made a call and said, hey, what's the deal? And they're like, you said that much millions? We didn't we don't have it. And so this is what caused all this. Now, Jaden Rashada, the football player, now really doesn't matter. It's Jaden Rashada, the situation, the whatever comes out of this. So I think this will set at least some little bit of legal precedent over, or like rulemaking precedent over, okay, now we know what these people did wrong on all sides, and let's try to build some rules around how to prevent this from happening.
Yeah, there are schools that promise money and don't pay it, and there are schools that get a contract signed by the athlete, and the athlete doesn't honor it. It kind of you could patch up a little bit of that. It sure would be nice. I don't know where he's going to be playing again, but he could make enough money in this trial. I don't know. Maybe he won't, but I bet he would still give that up if he could just have gone to college, and this would have been his third year or so, and had a really good career that everyone thought he would have coming out of high school.
Yeah, I mean, he's had to have made some pretty good money at this point. Certainly not what he could have made if he was actually in one place and performing and starting and playing and doing all of that. But I mean, that ought to be interesting. I mean, I don't know what kind of just crazy things could be revealed in a situation like this. But yeah, we'd obviously get more details on how all this operated if it gets to this point. I mean, it's a long ways away. I suppose there's, some things that can happen between now and then. But yeah, I mean, at this point, Jaden Rashada, lawsuit, schmawsuit, like, I mean, are you going to be able to live up to the ranking? And are you going to be a guy we're watching the pros one day? Or are you going to be that guy that's on the NIL, Mount Rushmore along with Nico, who we refer to as like these guys who popped for a second, got a cool NIL deal at the beginning, and then they just completely flamed out. Now Nico's Nico was on a playoff team starting quarterback, so he's in a different category. But like in terms of where they ended up on the other side of college, that remains to be seen. But yeah, I mean, so far Rashada has been a headline guy, and for portal movement and for lawsuits and for really that's it. So, yeah, I hope that turns out differently for him.
In different ways. I'm not trying to match these guys together. But if there was right now, and Mount Rushmore topic is a lazy topic because you could go on and on with that, but it's also legitimate in this case. You mentioned Rashada, Nico. Who would be 4 names, college football from the start of NIL, and it doesn't mean because they didn't finish a contract or because they bolted or wanted more money or they didn't get paid. Who would be 4 names in college football that would be on the Mount Rushmore to signify the NIL era? And I would say that one of them might need to be Quinn Ewers because he was one of the first ones, remember, out of high school, goes to Ohio State, had a really good career at Texas. He didn't break any contracts and is going to get drafted this weekend. But I would think because he was one of the first that got the big money out of high school.
I don't think. I mean, I get where you're saying. I don't think Mount Rushmore is the right metaphor for it. There's going to be just like
poster child,
yeah, okay, poster children for different things of NIL because Jaden Rashada is the worst overall story, right? Highly touted prospect, promised a bunch of money at school. Well, promised a bunch of money at school 1, commits there, almost signs there. School 2 comes in, reportedly beats the offer. He goes there. So he was going to go to Miami. Then he went to Florida, gets to Florida. They can't pay him. Goes to Arizona State, loses out the starting quarterback job to Sam Levitt, who's really good.
Which now, I mean, if that didn't make sense at the time, it makes plenty of sense.
Yeah. So loses out the starting quarterback job, then go, okay, well, I'm not going to start here. Also makes you wonder would, DJ Lagway probably would have beaten him out too because he was still coming to Florida in spite of Jaden Rashada the next year. Then goes to Georgia, gets beaten out by 2 guys, is now in the portal. Nico Iamaleava is the scary story of you signed the contract, he goes there, he helps you win, you're in the playoff, you're building towards another year to hopefully do it again, and then what happens? He decides he wants more money because you've thrown it around so well. Not only that, getting the state government to back you up on it and file injunctions, then he leaves. So that's
the poster child of putting an ultimatum on a school, and I'm sure other guys have done that, and they've behind the scenes there's been no reporting about it, or that's on a message board, behind passwords somewhere that there's stories of that schools did answer. But yeah, he's the poster child of it backfiring and blowing up.
And then Quinn Ewers is the one of states, right? Like, so the state of Texas would not allow high school players to make NIL. So he went, left early, went to Ohio State for a year, got his kombucha check, and then came back to where he wanted to come back to originally, which is play at Texas, stay there, help them get better and win, and now he's going to the NFL. So he's more a victim of the government than anything else. Otherwise, he's a pretty good story. The guy who's following up is another story, a guy who can make a ton of NIL money, then stay and just wait his turn because he knows it's going to work out better for me this way.
And it has his chance now this year to actually get almost all the snaps, hopefully, that he remains healthy with Arch Manning at Texas. So there's a few different type of discussions, topics that we had for today. Let me set a couple more things. We set up our guest schedule. Kalani Sitake, head coach at BYU, as I said, around the corner. They've wrapped up their spring, and we'll ask him about his roster and how much has it already changed since spring ended and some of what he's dealing with as far as the possibility of players moving on, entering the transfer portal. I'm not going to go over this story because we've talked about it ad nauseum, but if you want to know even more, Max Olson, Chris Lowe, Adam Rittenberg, 3 different guests we've had on this show on ESPN.com, even more details and background of when things started to go a little bit awry with Tennessee and Nico Iamaleava. It's a very good story by those 3. We'll have Max, I think, tomorrow. Usually joins us on Thursdays. Jim Williams yesterday joined us, media consultant and columnist. He did send me this text last night. When we looked at Garrett, do you still have the college football playoff graphic on the dates by any chance?
No,
Probably
not today.
He mentioned, he goes, one thing I did not bring up, the Rose Bowl, Paul, you mentioned it's like an hour difference, but they're still going to get like an early to mid-afternoon kick time on the January 1st date. Orange Bowl is going to be a daytime game. That has always been iconic as a night game. Used to be on New Year's Eve. There have been many games played for the national championship back in the day, even before anything even called the BCS or whatever else. That game, Jim said he noticed, is an afternoon game this coming year in the playoffs, which is a different look in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get too caught up in these things because I'm just there to watch the game ultimately, but I know people have their particulars and they love the sunset in LA and you just got to be there, and I totally get that. But I mean, it just doesn't bother me to the extent it bothers other people. It's ultimately like, yeah, that'd be cooler if it was that way, but it's not going to like change my enjoyment of the game at all. Same thing with the Orange Bowl, basically, but as somebody who does like a level of tradition and doesn't like seeing it tinkered with to hell, like everything's being tinkered with to hell, yeah, I see where both those kind of suck for people who do enjoy that type of thing, who do prefer the Orange Bowl at night like I do, or do prefer the Rose Bowl having the perfect time for the perfect sunset and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's just another kick in the balls for people who like things the way that they were or like things the way that they feel like they were perfect slotted for. And I don't know what to tell those people other than no matter how many times people want to say, like, this is what I'll do when I'm in charge. Like, I know there's various personalities, Josh Payton, whoever else, are like, when I'm commissioner one day, this is how it's going to go. And it's all fun to think about, but like the odds are less than 5% that you're ever going to be college football commissioner. So all these things that we're crying out about and hoping to change, it sucks because there's nothing you can actually do about it. And so we have to pretend like we have some authority to change things, or we have to have hope that someday maybe some person who does have what's best in mind, even all the way down to something as tedious as kickoff times, does somehow get supercharged with some level of power that they can make changes. And that's what we have to hold on hope for, because otherwise, if you're watching reality, they are tinkering with every dadgum thing they can possibly tinker with, and they're never once considering what the fans think about any of it. Like, you don't want more playoff games? Guess what you're getting? More playoff games. You don't want the Rose Bowl time to move? Guess what you're getting? The Rose Bowl's moving. You want the Orange Bowl at night? Yep. Guess when it's going to be played? In the daytime. You like geography making sense? Guess what's super conferences? Like every little thing, even down to kickoff times, are being tinkered with. And so, yeah, you need some people to speak up for tradition and kind of fight for it. But unfortunately, it just feels like a real losing battle. So maybe there's a power sway at some point. But yeah, man, everywhere you look, it's getting messed with to some degree.
No, it took them 50 years to come up with a playoff. And then when they came up with a playoff, we're like, hey, why don't you just make it a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger, so like these problems that we're having, we don't have them. And they're like, okay, I got you. Finally, okay, we're hearing you. We hear you. And you're like, okay, great. First year was really good. Like, there's some little tiny things you can make you like, and they're like, shut the hell up. We're making it bigger. You know what? You don't think a large fry is big enough? Supersize, mofos.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. Oh, the conference could be a little bit different. It could be a little bit better. Oh, yeah? You want it? You know what? Here comes the gravy pipe, son.
Yeah. And the thing about all that, though, is that it all comes back to the TV networks. That's what it all comes back to. The conference is changing. Absolutely. The kickoff time's changing. Like the playoff structure, every single one of those things is TV kickoff related. All these neutral site games that some people cannot stand, I like them to an extent, but I don't want every opening weekend juggernaut matchup at the freaking Mercedes-Benz Superdome, every single time, like, or at Jerry's World. Like, we can play that at Clemson. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. We don't need it in Atlanta at the Falcon Stadium, so all of those things circle back to the same people. And the thing is that then you'll have the TV people come on, and Bob Thompson sounds great, or Jim Williams or whoever, and we love those guys, but they have a way of convincing you, like, no, it makes sense. And you really like, no, but you guys are the ones that are pulling the strings, and not them per se, but those types of people are the ones that are making a lot of the decision making. They're making all the decisions on all these things I just mentioned. All these complaints that people have, I just ran them down. Kickoff times, neutral site games, playoff structure, conference structure, all of that is TV network. All of that is TV network.
Those are entertainment people, right?
Ultimately, I will say, let me to some degree, Chris Del Conte still wanted Texas in the SEC, and Joe Castiglione wanted Oklahoma. So but that's still regional. That still geographically makes sense.
But the TV networks also had to want them to do that too. So they needed that partner to agree to them, because if they had gone to ESPN and said, "Hey, we'd like to leave," they'd be like, "No, we don't like that. That's not going to be good for us, and we're the ones who are driving it." But that's entertainment, though. If you look at the way the world works, Soki, you like NCIS, right? You like Gibbs. But you liked NCIS probably when it started, right?
Yeah, probably.
But there was, you liked Gibbs. And they said, let's do it in every city in the world.
Yes.
Let's keep doing it. And then you're like, I don't know if there's that much Navy-related crime.
There's an NCIS temple.
Yeah, exactly. There's really not even a port there, right?
No.
And so they keep doing that. Like, oh, hey, you know what? Spider-Man was good. Oh, you know what else will be good? Movies without him in it, with all the villains. Like, that's what they do. They just overstuff it until it's burnt to the ground.
It's like having more than one movie, the original. You and I do. Hey, by the way, one basketball note, maybe two. We'll have Chad Brendel, who covers Cincinnati. He'll join us a little bit at the 425. But here's one note on the Bearcats. Dylan Mitchell, heck of a player, played at Texas, then went to Cincinnati. He now is headed to play for Rick Pitino in St. John's. And a note here from Travis Branham, who covers college basketball, national writer, because of the addition of Dylan Mitchell, with now 3 players in the top 25, one at 61 and one at 121, that they have, at least for now, and of course it can change at any moment, the number one transfer portal basketball group. Now, there's some that have maybe more transfers, some that have maybe a couple more higher ranked transfers, but because of that, the number one overall transfer portal, according to 247 Sports. So there's that, and we'll have Chad Brendel to talk about Mitchell at 425. Jimmer Fredette, we discussed him. He is announcing his retirement. Career from BYU to Paris, the Olympic Games, he's done. One of the all-time greatest, and of course, an amazing personality and player, athlete at BYU. We discussed him when BYU was making the run about who was the Danny Ainge, among others, and there he is. He, about a month later, has decided it's time not to play basketball at the professional level.
You forgot who he was. Don't pretend like
you
didn't.
No, I remember Jimmer Fredette. I did not realize, for whatever reason, that he was at BYU. That is a cardinal sin, by the way. But I did not realize the connection to BYU.
Yeah, he was a great college player and a very memorable player, I think, for a lot of people during his time at BYU. Was exceptional back then. He's also been playing pro basketball for a long time. He's been out of the NBA for a while, been overseas playing in like China and elsewhere. So, he's pushing 40. How much more basketball can you possibly play? So, hadn't been really tracking his career outside of just the kind of general nature of it. But, good for him. Great all-time BYU Hall of Fame level guy, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of accolades coming his way in his post-playing career. But definitely have some memories of watching him, and I'm sure the BYU folks have a mountain of memories of watching Jimmer Fredette. So, yeah, he was a great player, and good luck to him in his post-basketball life.
Garrett, we have Kalani Sitake next, but did you get the McMurray football? This is a picture of their new field. They've gone to the stripes. Now, I got this on my Twitter feed, but I wanted to share this with everybody. This is from Daniel Acton. He watches the show. He said, I told him I'd bring this up. Yes or no on this? He said, I like it. His wife thinks it's tacky. Now, we have a great relationship with McMurray and Tarleton and some of these schools, Mary Hardin-Baylor or whatever, but what are your thoughts about this particular look on their field?
It's easy on the eyes. Like some of these fields are a little bit bright. They hurt a little bit. That Eastern Washington blood red thing feels like a horror movie to me. Boise State, they've picked a nice hue of blue to do it, and I like this. I can stomach this.
Yeah, I don't love it, but it's dark enough that it doesn't hurt my eyes like Boise does at times, or the field that you just referred to.
Eastern Washington.
Yeah, like EW's. So, yeah, like this is okay. I need to see it in person or on TV to really get a better feel for it, but it doesn't make me squint automatically. So that's a positive compared to the other two that we mentioned. But, yeah, I mean, typically I'm not all for the painted fields, but this is okay.
All right, business is booming, so there we are. I wanted to get an idea. If you want to give us your thoughts in the chat room, that would be great. Remember now, there's a couple of polls that Andrew will have up. If you will, be a part of those, and we'll mention the overall results at the end of the show today at around 6 o'clock. Coming up next, the BYU football program. What a year it was. Could have been better. Was really good, though. Kalani Sitake, one of the great friends of this show, he's next. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Very common disorder that men can have. In fact, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men suffer from some sort of condition. Sometimes it could be debilitating, which causes the following: fatigue and loss of energy, weight gain, excess body fat, moodiness, poor quality sleep, loss of focus and concentration. I mean, I'm going right down that list in some ways myself. And then you hear a lot about the lack of sexual interest or the performance too. Petty Clinic, dedicated to providing men unique, innovative, high-quality healthcare, delivering the safest maximum dose of low T or T therapy possible to achieve the high performance that you expect. Contact Low T, Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Tell them I sent you. They will set you up to get your blood work. Dr. Petty will get your results and be in touch with you if you need a boost. They're there for you. Petty Clinic, lowt.com.
Is on at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get the 2024 Ram 3500 diesel 4x4 for just $56,800, or drive home a 2025 Ram 1500 for only $35,900. Big trucks, big savings, only at Allen Samuels in Waco.
I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
The Jeep Celebration event is on at Allen Samuels. Get the luxurious 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer with a huge $13,000 dealer discount plus 0% financing. Big savings, legendary Jeeps at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
365 Sports, as some schools have wrapped up their spring football, and then some will do it this week, and it can trickle a little bit. And there's one of the great friends of our show, Kalani Sitake, head coach at BYU, with Paul Craig and David Smoak. Hello, great to see you. How you doing, Coach?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
We're doing really, really well. So you have already wrapped yours up. It's been, a couple of weeks since you've done that. And so there's always that checklist of, do you get everything done? We had, I think it was Lance Leipold said this one time, that it's almost like when you ask a coach on National Signing Day, did you get everybody you wanted? And they always say yes, even if there's probably a couple that got away. But with what you needed to do, what did you accomplish that you had to accomplish, and what are a couple of things you're still not sure about?
Well, I think for the most part, our offense, defense, special teams, we got enough work. Obviously, you know that you're going to use summer conditioning and the fall camp to get everything ironed out. But I did like all the competition that we saw from our players, the returning players, the guys that know the plays, and we were able to do a few things in scheme with the offense and defense. But when it comes down to it, spring was always freshen up and get better at the fundamentals, all the little things of the game, the details, increase our football IQ and work better in situational football. So we were able to get that done and focus on that. I was really proud of the team. We had a physical spring, and most of the team were pretty much healthy the entire time, except for maybe a couple injuries, but that happens when you play this violent sport. But overall, I was really pleased with the progress that we made.
Coach, teams change from year to year, but does momentum actually carry over? Is that something that media and fans kind of hype up of, hey, they won 9 games last year, they have a bunch of guys coming back, they should be able to do this? That's an inexact science, right? But how much of that can carry over in your mind?
Well, I think the motivation, the drive from the team has got to be the key. And a lot of that's the players and them leading the way. But it's also the mindset of never being satisfied. The guys have accomplished a tremendous amount last year, but that was last year. This is a new time, and I see the hunger in the players and but it's going to take a strong amount of humility and for us to stay hungry. And that's the guys have moved on. Last year seems so far away now. We can build on some of the cool things that we were able to do, but more than anything, it's the experience of these young men that had some new opportunities and were able to be given that time to play. They can have a lot of confidence knowing that they've done it before, but everyone's starting off brand new. So we've got to get back to work. We although I'm pleased with what we did in spring football, there's still a lot of work to accomplish, and we're trying to get that done in the next little bit.
What is the difference this year? In spring last year, you didn't know who the quarterback was going to be. You had a battle. This year, like you said, it's about getting better in the fundamentals. When you can do that and say, okay, we know that Jake's the starter, we can have the young guys work on their stuff and Jake can work on his stuff. Does that change the the dynamic of practice and that you can have more of a straight line to practice 1 to practice 15?
I think everybody's always competing, and you know, it feels better when you know your quarterback that started all year last year is back. There's just him being familiar with everything. There's not a lot of new teaching for him, and we can focus on teaching the new guys that are new to the program and new to the system. And so with that being said, focusing on the depth at quarterback and focusing on the depth in other positions, and then focusing on the competition. Having Jake back has been huge for us, but we want him to make improvements too. And so we issued a challenge for him to get that much better in spring, and I felt like he did that, you know. And everybody has their individual goals of how much they want to get better and how much they want to accomplish. That's within reason, and that's realistic. And they were, I would say, a lot of the guys met their individual goals, Jake being one of them. So that's a good sign.
Kalani, you know what the way it is in college sports right now, and there's been a lot of stuff out there about the portal that wraps up this week. You've had a couple of guys enter. It's part of the business. You've also had some that you've been able to get to come to BYU. How do you handle it when somebody says they're going to enter the portal? Do they tell you that? You learn about it, and do you keep up with trying to at least get in their mind of what they're thinking?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just a one way to do it. I think we've had everything so it's such an individual by individual case, and so the first thing I do as a head coach is I thank them for what they've done for our program and appreciate them and show them the love that they deserve. And I'm always going to cheer for them. I want them to do what's best for them. I feel like we have all the resources and everything here that you need to be at your best. And if it doesn't match up with what they're expecting, then that's okay. That's part of what college football is nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I can work with the guys that want to be here. You know what I mean? And we went and got depth and worked on getting depth as a team so that we can prepare for something like this to happen. But I think the key for us is for me is to show appreciation and gratitude to those that came here and did that. I mean, they're part of our family, and I'll cheer and hope for the best for them. It's just a lot easier for me to cheer and do that when they're on my sideline. But I always want what's best for them, except for when we play them. You know, that one time if that happens. But they were here. They put a lot of energy and sacrificed quite a bit to be here in this program, and I want them to know how much I appreciate them and love them.
Would you ever put a date ultimatum on if they're in the portal, when they're allowed to, or if you would allow them to come back, or is that kind of, again, flexible based on the case?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different reasons for guys going into the portal. Most of the conversations that I have are guys that want to just be on the field more. And I can understand that. I think the key is we just talk about it, and if we feel like it's the best thing. I mean, we had exit interviews. The players met with the position coaches and the coordinators, and for a lot of them, it's just like, Coach, we're just looking for other opportunities and more opportunities to be on the field. I mean, I think a lot of times you can see the writing on the wall by what happens in spring ball, and where the majority of the reps and the ball and who's going to be getting it. And I think that's been key for a lot of these guys. I don't hide from it. If they want to get on the portal, then so be it. I mean, that's the game. I just know that sometimes when people think the grass is greener on the other side, it usually doesn't mean that. It doesn't work that way. But I want to be able to help them come to what they want. And if this is what they want, and this is truly the reasons why they're going is for this and that. And I mean, I want to know the reasons why they're leaving. They don't have to explain to me why they're leaving, but it'd be good for me to know. But if they feel like they have a better opportunity somewhere else, then go do it. You know, that's like I said, I want to coach the guys that want to be here.
Well, Coach, I mean, this is a total compliment. You are one of the easier guys to talk to in your profession. I don't know, at least for us, I don't know if that comes across, but is that a vibe you try to send out of like, listen, I'm your coach. Like, we have rules, we have discipline. I'm a tough guy, but I don't ever want you to feel like, you know, there's something you can't say if you need to say it.
No, I mean, I'm open to feedback myself too. Like I want to know how I can do a better job and what I can do to improve. And so I don't have a problem with being upfront with people and being direct. And I would want them to do the same. I know one thing I'm not good at, and that's guessing on how you're feeling and what you're thinking. If I were a mentalist, I would be doing something else.
Yeah,
but I'm not. So I'm pretty simple. If if you want something and if you're frustrated with something, I want to know about it. And if you're willing to talk to me about it, then we can come to a conclusion on what's best for all parties. But I think it's important for me to give an opportunity for young men to just hear them out and what they're thinking. And I think a lot of times, I mean, feedback is a gift. It definitely is. But I'm open for that as well. And so where does it show that you have to be really mean to kids to get your way? I believe in Christ as our Savior, and I'm trying to follow His example. I think you do that by being sincere and trying to understand where they're coming from. That's where I played the game, so I'm trying to understand where they're coming from their point of view. The difference is I didn't have NIL, I didn't have transfer portal, I didn't have all these things that are there, but I'm trying to see it from their eyes and trying to understand where they're coming from. And sometimes I don't understand it, but it's a learning process for me too. I just want to make sure that they know that I care about them and that I want what's best for them.
How much better of a grip do you have on the things that you're talking about, like when you bring up NIL and transfer portal? I know those questions get exhausting, the topics get exhausting, but like how much better of a grip do you have on things compared to when it just all the door busted open and it all broke loose? And just where do you kind of find yourselves when these topics get brought up nowadays? Where are you in your mind when it comes to the game?
Well, I felt like when NIL was when it first came out in the transfer portal, I didn't really I wasn't panicked. I was just trying to understand as much as I can, and then trying to see how this could really fit our culture and fit what we want to accomplish as a team. I mean, I think everyone saw the opportunity at gaining money and using that as a focus. I wanted to focus on other things first. Although it's good for these young men to get money, I wanted to focus on education still, for their opportunities to learn and to learn how money could really be beneficial for them in the future. And that right now, the purchases that they want to make aren't the wisest, and they need to think about themselves when they're older, when they're in their 40s and they have a family. I want them to think, I mean, imagine if we could have started a retirement fund at 18, guys. I mean, that's a huge benefit for these young men. But the education on how finances work, I want them to understand that part. And we have a lot of people that understand finance, and they understand budgets, and they can talk to them about taxes, because these guys don't even know about that. So it's just opening them to a whole new world of different things. And that's what money does. Now you have to be responsible. And so we're trying to teach some responsibility with finances and with money and how to use it, and then how to actually help you in the future. That the instant gratification of spending right now maybe not be the wisest thing. And a lot of that is creating a budget that is within their means. But I mean, I don't know if you need the second console of a video game. Maybe one is enough. And if they want to buy another one, then that's up to them. But I would want to hear why they want to buy another one, because maybe they're not watching a film. Maybe they need to, focus on academics. And so, but I think that's something that you can work with them together on. And if young men don't want to do that with us, then I don't know if there's a program for them. I want guys that understand that we care about their future, not just about the here and now.
Get into some of the X's and O's in a minute, the draft this week, but you were recently named to the board of trustees with the AFCA. That is located here, like a mile from our studio, with Craig Bohl, now the one that runs it, who had a great career as a head coach. What is that an honor for you? And also, are people listening to what the coaches have to say? Because the presidents, commissioners, and AD seem to be the ones making most of the decisions.
Yeah, I think first of all, it's a huge honor for me to join a wonderful group led by Craig Bohl. And there's amazing coaches in that group already. I'm just honored that they thought that I could be, that I belong and that I could bring something to the table. The key for me was just making sure that the coaches are heard. In our profession, our job is to care about the student athlete first. And I know we all get paid to win games and do those things, but when you talk to coaches, we got into this business because we care about young people, specifically about young men that play football. And so we're looking at the opportunities of them as people in the community after they're graduated, and what they can accomplish, not just as a professional athlete, but what are they going to do when they move on and they have a family. And so talking to the coaches makes a lot of sense to me. Coaches, I know we act like we have all the answers, but we do, and we kind of understand how this works. And A lot of us have been players before, so I think it'd be really, really beneficial for the NCAA to listen to what coaches have to say, and because I can tell you we've had conversations in meetings as coaches about the worries and the pitfalls that could happen, and all of that has come true in the last few years on the things that people are dealing with right now. And so, I think we're getting a better handle of it, but it was difficult once you open Pandora's box. It's really hard to just throw it back in there. But I know the coaches are committed to making it work and making it better, and I'm happy to be part of a group that is focused on making sure that student athletes are getting what's best for them, not what they want.
I think there are a lot of student athletes that do want what's best for them. I think that we focus in on the guys who are like, just, keep putting zeros on the end of that check. That's what we kind of focus in on. But the most of them just want to have, okay, what's the best way I can make some NIL money and make some money that's good for me and have the experience that I need that's going to make me a better athlete and student altogether. What do you hear from players about how they would like this to be simpler for them?
Well, I think the biggest issue is the rules and regulations, and then what truly is NIL. I know that we're going into a world now with revenue share, which is allowing everybody to have the opportunity to get paid. And I'm excited that student athletes get to get paid. I'm not one of these guys that, because I didn't have it, you can't have it. I mean, that's technology, and that's growth and progress. And so we're in a really good spot. Again, our focus and getting into this in college and even in high school is education. So if we're about the institution of education, then we should be educating them now on finances and now on money and understanding the game of NIL and making it. I mean, it's name, image, and likeness. And so, are we really paying them off their name, image, and likeness, or is it a pay-for-play model? So maybe if something is labeled a certain way, maybe it should mean that. And so I think that's the one thing is doing things like that and making sure that we're focused on education, and education comes in a lot of different ways. It's not just in the classroom. We have to educate them on life. I mean, the concept of taxes, a lot of the players never even understood before. And now they're saving receipts and they're trying to figure out ways to get tax breaks off their 1099. And that's our responsibility if they're going to be playing for you, to make sure that they're in a good position.
And your quarterback had one of those great traditional NIL deals that got a lot of play, the past few months with the Manischewitz, the deal there, which was pretty cool to see that. I have a twofold BYU basketball question, because I know last week you were on the Cruising with the Cougs, and Jimmer Fredette was on there, and today he just announced his retirement from basketball. Meanwhile, the current Cougs, I mean, what a run that was in March Madness, Coach. So how much juice do you feel carry over and just throughout the brand when they're doing what they're doing and marching to the Sweet 16? And any Jimmer Fredette anecdotes or thoughts on him calling it a career and just one of the all-time great BYU Cougars?
First of all, I love Jimmer. I mean, he's so fun to watch, and I know he does some amazing things on the basketball court. But the human, the person, amazing. I love the father that he is and the husband that he is, and spending a lot of time with him. It's been really cool. And it's not a bad thing that people want to take pictures with Jimmer over me. I'm okay with that. But the cool part about being on that cruise ship was just connecting with all the fans and just the passion that they have for our sports. And I know a lot of attention goes to football and basketball, but there's so many great coaches here and so many great student athletes, whether it's track and field, cross country, and in both men's and women's, or volleyball and men's and women's, and basketball and men's and women's. I mean, there's a lot of momentum being created, and it speaks to the leadership that we have in our program and in our university, but it also speaks to the coaches that are in those programs and the student athletes that are there. I mean, they represent BYU so well, and it's an honor for me to get to know them. I mean, and being on the cruise ship with a cheer team, the dance team, Cougarettes, and all these wonderful people, and it's all BYU. It was awesome. I had a really good time. I mean, I don't know if the cruise had anything to do with Jimmer announcing his retirement, but probably a little bit. It's like I thought that was kind of cool. all that food and access to that food, I don't know if it did really well for my waistline, but I had a lot of fun doing it.
Jim was like, I don't need to be, going around the world playing basketball anymore. I can just do this.
Just get paid to host the cruise every year, among others. So we've discussed some of your football team, and you've mentioned all three phases of the game. What is your best position? Is that possible? Like asking who's your favorite child? Can you say that? Can you know that right now?
Oh man, I don't think I can pick one.
Okay, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and then I mean, I think all of them are going to do really, really well for us. I'm really excited about the people that nobody know about, the names that maybe aren't your household names, and we lost some really good leadership and some good talent that's going to go in the NFL and should get drafted this week. So, but there's some up and coming guys that I think can really do some really cool things, and I'm looking forward to those guys and their opportunities. But yeah, if you were to ask me and I had to put something to it, I would say our strength and conditioning, sports science, and nutrition. But I'm not taking advantage of that. That's for the play.
Stop. Yeah. Well, it's the cruise. The draft is this weekend.
Cruise did me wrong.
You're going to be having some players in the draft, no question about it. How much of that is always as much of a commercial and promotion of your program as most anything else?
Well, I think we have a bunch of guys still currently on the roster that with tons of talent that will be future NFL guys. The guys that are going out now, I feel like there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be in camp and they're going to make teams. I'm so proud of them and they're what they did here in academics, and I'm just looking forward to seeing where they go. I mean, this is kind of exciting for me where I know guys. I mean, we're around graduation time too, so I know guys that have come through and they set out to graduate from BYU and have an opportunity to play in the next level, and their dreams are coming true right now. And regardless if they're successful in the NFL or not, the NFL needs them. First of all, they need more BYU guys, so I'm hoping we can get that done. And then, I'm more excited about what they do in the communities and how they help people and their commitment to serve others. And that I know that whether they're in the NFL or they're doing something else professionally, they'll be committed to helping people and to making the world a better place. And it's my honor to be their coach.
I have one quick question for you. The last time we saw you in person was at Media Days, and you told us the wonderful wrestling story. Look, John Cena's on his way out. Have they called you about potentially replacing him in the lineup because you have the experience?
No, because I think wrestling would try to make me the heel, and I always want to be the good guy. I don't know if I could ever turn against the cheers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, John Cena's doing that too. And so who knows? I think the best wrestlers get it done, but those are some amazing athletes. I wish people would stop bugging it about that being fake. When they hit the ground, they jump all over the place. They're athletes altogether. So, and apparently they're really good actors. So they get it done in the box office as well.
One thing to talk about the momentum Craig brought up and also the team you had. Do you bring up, by the way, guys, we were 11-2 or what you were, but we had 4 one-score wins, and that can easily flip from year to year. Is that even something that you recognize or they do?
No, regardless of the result of the game, I want our guys to learn and get better. So even with the season, I believe in praising the things that we've done well, but I want to make sure we're at our best. And I don't know if we were at our best every week this last year. That's my job as a head coach. So I want to make sure and get them at their best and make sure that we're playing at our best, because when we do, we can relive with whatever the result will be. I don't want them to have any regrets of what we could have done better. There's some things that you can't control in the game of football, but the stuff that we control, if we can take care of all those things, I think we'll put ourselves in a much better position for success. And but I'm proud of the guys no matter what. All I know is it's going to take work. I can praise the work and the energy that goes into the work and the preparation. What I can't worry about is if the result's going to work in our favor, because that's just another opportunity for us to learn. When we win or lose a game, I want to make sure we learn from those moments and that the result doesn't stop the progress in us learning and getting better.
Thank you, man. You gave us a lot of time today. We always appreciate it, Kalani. Thanks for your time. We do consider you a great friend of the show, and have a great rest of your spring and into the summer. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Kalani Sitake, head football coach at BYU, with us on 365 Sports. And, you have Leipold, and of course we've Kleiman, and then Kalani Sitake and Joey McGuire, among others. We do appreciate. We'll have Sonny Dykes, TCU's wrapped up theirs, spring drills, and other football coaches will have from not just the Big 12, but also from other places around the country. We appreciate Brett Pine for making that happen with us and Kalani Sitake. The draft is starting tomorrow. It's 3 days. Starts tomorrow evening, first round, and then, of course, into the weekend, and then it trickles into the end of the weekend with undrafted free agents being signed. Eric Galko from the East-West Shrine Bowl game. He's the one that has been on with us for a long, long time. His thoughts about specific stories that we might see in the draft, at least among the first round, tomorrow. He's next. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco. The Baylor Club with general manager Mike Mosel. He is there. And, by the way, you always have a way of, when you join, if you do, is one of what I got from Dawn, who's a part of the department, of course, with memberships. You're interested in having great food? They have it. You're interested in having a place to have important business meetings with clients or possible potential clients? They have it. The Baylor Club now get a $100 dining certificate and a calendar full of top-tier experiences that you can also enjoy at the Baylor Club. They're going to have that huge event Saturday when football wraps up what they're doing during the spring. So they had a huge Easter weekend, too. The food is great. The amenities are fantastic. The views are even better. It's the Baylor Club. General manager is Mike Mosel. Tell him 365 Sports sent you.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Rick Galco, East-West Shrine game. He runs it and also locked into the draft that starts tomorrow evening. And he joins us on 365 Sports. Who is the one player that could wreak havoc and chaos on the first round?
Well, I think it could be whoever the Jacksonville Jaguars take with the 5th overall pick. I don't think I know that they are the one team that every other team in the league has not a great sense of who they're taking. And I think we've seen the ebbs and flows over the last few weeks and months of, they're definitely taking Mason Graham, and now everyone's on, they're taking Ashton Genty with their 5th overall pick. I will tell you, I think I have, maybe some idea who they might take, but I think there's a lot of other picks in the top 10, 12 picks overall that other teams feel it's this guy or this guy. For the Jaguars, it could be any number of guys too. So if they go someone like Tet McMillan at number 5, the receiver from Arizona, that's going to have a cascading effect of the top 13, 14 picks.
So with Cohen and Gladstone now running the ship, does that change who they have been? They made the changes for a reason, obviously.
Yeah, James Gladstone's an incredibly smart. He's the director of scouting strategy for the Rams. Incredibly smart person, incredibly smart executive. Now he's just 34 years old. So, a 33-year-old like me feels pretty old nowadays with a guy like him being GM. But he is as smart as they come, and also come from the Rams, who have been one of, if not the quietest teams in sharing who they may draft, and also a team that has thought very independently. The Rams have had no problem drafting some of the highest non-combine guys in the last 5 to 10 years. They've taken running backs early. They've taken a lot of offensive linemen early. They've created their first-round picks, and they've really, done a lot of things under the cloud of silence. So that's a big reason why I think the Jaguars being in this really unique spot, having him and Liam Cohen, 2 younger guys at the helm, a team that looks at analytics a lot, but also a team that can go a whole bunch of directions. That's why they're a fascinating team to watch this draft weekend. And they won't be drafting a quarterback. They've got that guy, but every one of their picks, I think, will be super interesting and maybe a bit off the wall from what other people are expecting.
Is there any doubt Tennessee takes Cam Ward?
Tennessee will take Cam Ward with the 1st overall pick, and Travis Hunter will be the 2nd pick in the draft. I think most people feel that's going to be how it's going to fall.
Travis Hunter at 2, the Colorado everything. He does it all. Will that be the Browns, or will that be somebody else?
A good question. I think it'll be, the Browns make a lot of sense for Travis in a whole bunch of ways, but he is the only blue chip guy, and he is as blue chip as they come for non-quarterbacks in the draft that I think it's not surprising or unrealistic to see a team trade a couple of top 100 picks, maybe even a future first to go get him. And I think the Browns have more than just a need at receiver / corner. And I think the Browns have been and will be certainly open to it. So, me personally, I think Travis is a special person and player. He's a team leader. He's an identity builder as a team. And I think it'd be, in my opinion, take a lot to not take Travis Hunter. But I think it's certainly going to be in play with a talent like him and how many teams agree with me that he's a pretty special guy.
Eric, the clock is ticking on Brian Daboll and the Giants and the structure and who they are and what they've been. They gotta have a spark here, but do they make a pick that is for today, for this year, or can they afford to make a pick of what's best in the long run for the Giants?
Well, I think for one, they've got an ownership group that is always thinking long-term and also giving their ownership or their head coach and GM a lot of say decision-making. So it's a really interesting split there on what the Giants may do. And hey, I'm biased. So I think Shedeur Sanders should be the pick. I think he, similar to Travis Hunter, not only solves a need and a long-term question, but helps build an identity for a team that maybe could really use a new direction forward. So I'm hoping he's the pick. Maybe the Giants can be, one of the first teams in a long time to trade back and still take a quarterback. I'm not sure that's really feasible when you're looking at a franchise quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, but I'm hopeful they take him. And I think most people believe around the league that it will be Shedeur Sanders or Abdul Carter with the 3rd overall pick, with a small chance that they trade back and still take Shedeur Sanders too. So, I think if I'm the Giants, I'm taking Shedeur Sanders, and let's move forward with him as our guy for the future. But the Giants are still going to be open-minded about, can we take Abdul Carter and get a quarterback later? But no doubt that I think the Giants will take a quarterback within the first 32 picks of the draft. Will it be Shedeur Sanders at 3, Shedeur Sanders at somewhere else, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck? Who knows?
I was going to ask you, if Shedeur's not the number 2 overall quarterback selected, who would be the others in the mix? And you mentioned obviously Jackson Dart. And the Tyler Shuck thing has really, really kind of picked up. He's a veteran guy, been around, has had some injuries. Why is it that he has become like this unique story in the quarterback group?
Yeah, I mean, I would say as of today, I think he will be the 3rd quarterback taken in the draft class. And I've told many people and teams too, when we invited the Shrine Bowl quarterbacks the first in October, our top 4 guys confidently were Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Tyler Shuck, and then Kyle McCord. And I think Tyler's always been, one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in this class. And, his age and his injury history, that's where the kind of questions come. Is he a first-round guy? But we saw a year ago, Bo Nix, 25-year-old rookie, played a lot of games, no injury stuff, but played a lot of games, had a great season, goes to the Broncos, felt like a reach, had a great rookie season. There's a lot of similarities between Bo Nix and Tyler Shuck, and certainly the recency bias of Bo Nix and then no one else until like Brandon Weeden before him being as old of a player. But it worked for Bo Nix. Maybe a team like the Saints or the Browns, the Giants says, hey, this could be our Bo Nix, and let's get him right now.
If Ashton Jeanty is picked, will it be to the Bears at 10, or are they going to have to move up to get him, or will somebody else steal him?
I think he makes a lot of sense for the Bears. I think if you're the Bears and you feel he's one of your blue chip players, if not your top blue chip guy, they're a team that feels they're not far away. They certainly, have Ben Johnson. Ryan Pohl's been there for a while. They feel like they're close. They are close, I believe. So if you feel that Ashton Jeanty is a missing piece, maybe going up a couple picks can make a lot of sense. I think Jeanty's a pretty special player, but my gut tells me that they can sit at 10 and still get Ashton Jeanty too. Would kind of be the, have him and DeAndre Swift be their version of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery that Ben Johnson had back in Detroit too. So I think they'll stay put at 10 and still get Ashton Jeanty.
Jerry had a press conference. Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, Will McClay, and Coach Schottenheimer. Of course, the teams do that as the draft is coming up, and they love to have their name on the clock. They love to be the story. They need players too. It's a different deal now with Schottenheimer. You hear about the wide receivers, whether it's Tetero McMillan or if it's Matthew Golden. Where do you see them? Do you think they're not one that moves up very often? Most of the time they move down and then get an extra pick and then somebody else. Your thoughts about Dallas at 12?
Yeah, I think they've gone offensive line in the past and it's treated them pretty well. I think adding a guy who can play guard or center, maybe they kick Cooper Beebe back to guard where he's played in his college career. They certainly have 2 tackles they like quite a bit too. So I think offensive line and maybe a name to watch that'll be surprised, but I think it's probably the ceiling that he goes, but he's going to be in play as Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. FCS, the 12th pick in the draft would be pretty crazy, but can make a little bit of sense. And then maybe Kelvin Banks, if he's there, a guy who's played left tackle, can maybe move side to left guard and be their left guard of the future and push Cooper Beebe the right side or staying at center. But I think Matthew Golden makes a lot of sense. And even if you don't feel that Matthew Golden is an obvious game-changing player, I actually think he's a better fit alongside CeeDee Lamb than Ted McMillan would be. I think he adds that speed element that we saw the Chiefs a year ago look at Xavier Worthy and just, hey, even if he's not getting the ball every time, you've got to account for him. And it opens up so much more of the offense horizontally because if he's in motion or if he's doing a go ball or you're getting the ball on one screen, it opens up your other receivers, your running game, your tight ends. I think he solves a lot of scheme-based problems that the Cowboys had a year ago, I think more than Ted McMillan. And I think for that reason, he makes a lot of sense for Dallas. And again, if he's not going 12, he's going somewhere in the teams. Matthew Golden as well, too, so he's not a reach. So my gut would be Gray Zabel or Matthew Golden make a lot of sense for the Cowboys. And I think if it's Golden, Cowboys fans should be excited.
Eric Galko, East-West Shrine Bowl with us on 365 Sports. There's no doubt Travis Hunter would be the ultimate versatility, multi-dimensional guy. But where is Tyler Warren, the tight end at Penn State, when it comes to being that Swiss Army knife type of player? Is he a top half of the first-round guy?
Yes, 100%. And I don't think he gets out of the top 10 picks. I would say that, if you're Chicago, you're looking for an offensive weapon, it'd be Ashton Jeanty or Tyler Warren. I think the New York Jets at 7 make a lot of sense. I could see a team like the Bears, maybe the Colts trading up to get Tyler Warren, maybe even the Saints to get a guy like him because he can be a real impact player for these teams. And I think Colson Loveland's the best tight end in the draft. I think both guys are really, really good. I think Loveland and Warren are two, after Brock Bowers, probably two of the best prospects at tight ends we've seen in the last couple of years. And that's where NFL teams kind of view him as well, especially in a draft class that doesn't have as many blue chip guys. I said earlier, just Travis Hunter and maybe Abdul Carter are those only blue chip guys. Everyone else in that second tier. That's why I think you'll see the Jets or Bears or Colts take Tyler Warren, move up for Tyler Warren, but he's going to go in the top 14, 15 picks and probably in the top 10, if not the top 7.
So is this going to be a first round because of so many unknowns? Well, it's been thought of as it's going to be a massive amount of trades. And some are like that. Depends on the year, depends on the players, depends on the depth of the draft. Do you see this as one that's going to be a bunch of trades, or do you feel like that's being a little bit discussed?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a lot from picks. Once we get past the top 15, 16, I think we'll see maybe one until the very end of the first round. Mm-hmm. I think that 15 to 25, 26 will be pretty dead. And then 26 down, you maybe get a team trading up for one of the last remaining linemen, maybe one of the quarterbacks. But I think that the more than even being reported, the second and third pick in the draft being traded is going to be in the mix because, as I said, we've got maybe 2 blue chip players, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. So if you're the Jaguars or Patriots or someone else who feels Travis Hunter is attainable and I cannot give up the whole cupboard to get him, that's in play. If you're a team like the Niners who feels that, hey, we may be never picking here again at the top 11, let's go get Abdul Carter, or the Dolphins who feel that they're close. Maybe they're on the, their front office, maybe look to maybe a bold move as well too. So I think after pick 2 and 3, Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter off the board, I think we'll see a lot of teams stay put. I think maybe back end of 1, we'll see a trade up. But the 2 teams I'd watch the back end of round 1, the Chiefs, the Eagles, both want to be aggressive for guys. Outside of those 2 teams, it'll be a pretty quiet trade draft process once we get back the first 3 picks.
Other than Genty, will Hampton, Judkins, or even Iowa's Johnston, will they be first round or at least in the top 40 picks of the draft?
I think we'll see 3 running backs go in the first, Genty, Hampton, and Travion Henderson. I feel fairly confident in that. Yeah, fairly confident too. And then Judkins, I think, is the only one in the second round. And we've seen the last few years teams have devalued running back. Not saying they don't have value, but they're saying, hey, we're not taking guys on day 1 or day 2 if we can help it. A lot of guys on day 3. So I think we'll see maybe a couple, maybe 1, maybe 2 go in round 2. Maybe 4 or 5 in the top 2 rounds. We'll see a couple go in the back end of 3, and then a lot in 4 and 5. So for those college football fans who think a lot of good running backs in this class, there are a lot of good running backs, but don't be surprised if round 4, round 5 is when the big run goes versus the top 100 picks.
Does everybody have their board set by the time they go to bed tonight if they do sleep?
I think the teams have their scout coaches' input boards done really by the middle of last week. What happens after that is really 3 big things. One is talking to the doctors. That happens after the board is set, so they're not biased by it. And they say, hey, doc, who's a green? Good to go. Who's a yellow? We should keep it in mind and talk about it more. Who's a red? Off the board. And that happens usually Thursday, Friday of last week. And then between that Thursday, Friday, and really up to like yesterday, even today, it's strategy meetings. Hey, we like these players. We have this need. Where's the best move to get him? Hey, if you're the New York Giants, is it Shadur at 3? And then this guy in round 2, this guy in round 3? Or is it, Abdul Carter at 1 and at 3, and then second, third round is someone different at quarterback? So and that's what these teams are going through now, these scenarios, and then calling and getting a sense of trades. You'd be surprised. I think a lot of trades discussions that are crystallized don't happen until this evening or tomorrow morning, because teams are trying to assess value first before calling and making a trade and kind of showing their hand too much. So I think if there's going to be some trades, all those trades are going to talk in advance, but that doesn't happen until really this evening or tomorrow about who they want to take. But certainly teams know who they like in the draft as of last week.
I know you've got a big meeting coming up this afternoon, and that's why we recorded this earlier. We wanted to get your expertise. We appreciate it. How much is the night before the draft for someone like you who has been a part of it for so long?
It's exciting. I think that what's changed for me from when I did a bit more media stuff to now is I've become an agent ambassador at times to the 130-ish guys that come to the Shrine Bowl every year. So the draft has changed from a lot of excitement to a little bit of an anxiety, whether it's, see where my guy Shadur Sanders goes, to thinking about where the guys that are really on the fringe of the draft may end up going. And certainly I keep myself busy and trying to help people, teams, agents, whoever, get a sense how the draft might go and help teams and people assess value. But it's turned a bit more anxious than fun, but hopefully we have a good draft class for the Shrine Bowl, and it's a fun Friday, Saturday for me as well too. But it's no doubt still busy, and I wouldn't have any other way.
Thank you, buddy. Great to have you on, Eric. I know you're busy. Thanks for your time. Eric Galco, East West Shrine Bowl. This is 365 Sports. All right, thanks to Eric, and he is in a Zoom meeting with for 4 hours this evening with various representatives attached to the NFL draft, and we appreciate him giving us time earlier today. Chad Brendel, Bearcat Journal, great friend of the show. He joins us. There he is. Thank you very much, Chad, for being a part of our show. 365 Sports, Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, David Smoak as well. So I saw where we'll talk about football, but the basketball team seemed like they were able to kind of reload with Krissa. They got Celestine, who was just signed. How have they done with that portal about to wrap up?
Good. I mean, they made the trade with Baylor, Celestine for Dan Skilling, straight up.
Yep.
So that worked out pretty well, but obviously the gem right now is Mustafa Cham from UCF, who was a high 4-star, 5-star, depending on where you looked. Coming out of high school, had a really good freshman season for UCF. 7'2", 7'6" wingspan, has some offensive skill and 2.7 blocks a game. He's an elite rim protector. So that's kind of the crown jewel of what they were able to do with their transfer class. The big thing for me, they added some toughness. This was not a particularly tough or physical team last year. They were talented, but when the chips were on the table, I don't want to say they were soft, but they were soft. And you went out and you got Sincere Harris, who was maybe the best perimeter defender in the Big 12 last year at West Virginia. You got an old friend of the Big 12 in Kerr Kriisa from his time at Arizona. So you get in West Virginia. So you add him and Harris to kind of help that guard rotation. Those two guys, not only tough, but, Kriisa will talk a little bit. We'll let you know when things are going well and when they're not. And then, Celestine gives him a shooter. And then a guy that doesn't get talked about as much, he was first team all-conference in the Atlantic 10, is Jalen Haynes from George Mason, who is generously listed at 6'8", 265. Probably a little closer to 280 if I had to guess. But a big guy that's got some good footwork, good hands, can pass, can shoot. But more importantly, gives them a guy that can score on the blocks, which they just didn't have last year. So the roster needed an overhaul to go along with the return of Jizzle James and Day Thomas. And Wes Miller did a good job getting it done. Also, 5-star Sean Abayev comes in as a freshman. And then top 50 point guard Keyshawn Tillery coming in as well. So it's going to be an entirely new look, like most of the conference, for Cincinnati.
Dylan Mitchell left and went to St. John's. He was about 10 points a game last year. He's a really talented player. Do you feel they filled that void? Or did it always feel to you like Cincinnati was going to be a stopover for him?
No, I mean, I think they, in a perfect world, they would have liked to have kept Dylan, but you get into what role do you see him in? They wanted to get more talented offensively. Dylan is a good offensive player, but he's not somebody that you run offense through. They will be hurt by losing his defense and his rebounding and his ability to get out in transition and score. But I think they learned last year this league is very physical. And when you got into, Norchad Omier and JT Toppin and Josh Jefferson and some of the more physical players in this league, Dylan was about 210 pounds. And I think he had a hard time physically keeping up with some of those guys. And because he really didn't have much of a perimeter game, his offense was very reliant on the games that they could get out in transition. When they were stuck in the half court and really had to grind things out, Dylan didn't have a lot to his offensive arsenal that provided much. So I think it worked out for the year that he was here, but I think he's probably going to a much better fit the way Rick Pitino is playing at St. John's right now. And I think Cincinnati was looking for more of a physical presence The closer they get to the rim.
Chad, so the second lap around the Big 12 will be complete here in a few weeks once the spring semester wraps up. How do you feel like Cincinnati athletics, primarily in the big sports, football and basketball, learned lessons from year one, applied those, made changes, and how do you feel like Cincinnati just sort of still navigating their way, trying to find success, how they've been able to manage over the last couple seasons?
I think the learning curve was steep. I think a lot of people inside the building knew that it was going to be a challenge. I think the fan base is still catching up to the fact that, we talked about this a lot on Bearcat Journal, like that first year football-wise in the Big 12, teams would come out of the opposing locker room at Nippert Stadium, and the first thought would be, those guys don't look like the guys wearing black. And last year, I think you saw a lot of progress to look more like a Big 12 team. And from what we've seen this spring, a good example is like a defensive end. In the American Conference, you can get away with 6'2", 260-pound defensive ends. That doesn't work in the Big 12. Those guys better be 6'4", 6'5", and twitchy and fast off the edge and able to get after the quarterback. Your offensive line needed to be a lot bigger and a lot longer. Your wide receivers needed to be more athletic. They've had problems in both seasons finding a wide receiver core that at the boundary or at the field wide receiver and in the slot could get open. And I think they've done a much better job kind of building the roster towards what they've seen in the Big 12. In basketball, it's a monster. Everybody kind of figured Cincinnati was going to be right in that 6 to 8 range in the conference, and the roster just didn't click. They didn't, Dan Skillings didn't take the jump that many expected last year. Simas Lukosius was really effective at the 4 2 seasons ago at Cincinnati. With Dylan Mitchell, he got moved to the 3, and Dylan Mitchell played the 4. I thought he had trouble kind of getting open and providing the shooting on the perimeter that they thought they were going to get. So the roster ultimately didn't work. And I think that's why you're seeing a different strategy from Wes Miller, a little bit more attitude, a little bit more toughness. Because if you're not physical and tough in this league, you don't stand a whole lot of a chance. You have to be skilled. You have to be talented. But, boy, you better be physical and tough or you don't stand any chance getting into the upper half of the league.
There's no question that we've seen teams that have been really, really good. We've seen how they've had to remake their roster. Word I got, part of what Baylor's trying to do is go back to what they did so well, which was be tough, physical inside, because they were like a wet piece of paper in some cases. Yeah. Not just because of the lack of height. They didn't knock anybody on their ass.
It's really interesting. I asked Scott Drew after the loss at Cincinnati when Ojenwuna was out. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of trying to rediscover themselves. And he said something that really stuck with me. He said, 4 or 5 years ago, I would have been able to go out and get a backup 5. And I would have had him on my roster and ready to go. But with NIL, you're spending so much money on Omier, and you're spending so much money on Edgecombe, and you're spending so much money on Rob Wright that you don't maybe have that ability at every position to look exactly like you want to look. And I think that's part of what coaches are learning as this portal and NIL era develops. You're not going to be perfect because generally you don't have, just unlimited resources to go be perfect too deep at every position. So you've got to allocate your resources wisely. And I think everybody gets caught up, right, in scoring and shooting and things that are obviously important. But, boy, you better be tough, too. You better be able to rebound. You better be able to stop somebody and be balanced. Mm-hmm. And I think teams are kind of going more back towards that in their roster construction now. And it's going to be fascinating because this league is going to look insanely different next year than it looked this past season.
Yeah, you've got like half the teams had like one guy stay.
Yeah.
And you got to build out from there. Football wise, transfer portal has looked kind of exciting for Scott Satterfield, especially with Joe Cotton coming in. The top FCS. Maybe the top FCS transfer at any position because he's such a talented offensive lineman. But it looks like they got some of those wide receivers you were talking about. Do you feel that this portal class can come in and help push them over the line, especially since Sorsby is now there and established and ready to go?
Yeah, I do. I got a name for you guys that I think you're going to really love watching in Big 12 play this year. Jeff Caldwell. He was at Lindenwood. And he said he talked to us in the offseason or during spring ball, said he was 5'8" going into his senior year of high school. He is now 6'5". He is top 22 miles an hour on the catapult. And he has a 40-inch vertical leap. Like wow. the kid is a freak. And, just one of those late bloomer guys that he has really impressed this spring. They went and got Cyrus Allen from Texas A&M at wide receiver. They got a couple really good safeties, including Christian Harrison, Rodney Harrison's son from Tennessee. And then Joe Cotton, like you said, they had a hole at left tackle. John Williams, who's probably going to get drafted this weekend, was a rock solid left tackle for them last year. And they didn't have a great replacement on the roster. They thought they had somebody lined up in the winter. That kid ended up at Michigan State at the last minute. That was like a head-to-head battle that they lost. So they had to hit a home run. And to go out and get the number one tackle in the spring portal that pretty much everybody wanted, like if there's a good tackle that goes in, everybody wants them because nobody has enough of those guys. To be able to build that relationship, I think was a huge momentum boost. And if you're Brendan Sorsby, probably sleeping a little bit better at night as we go into the summer.
Chad, how much did they have to fight off others for Brendan Sorsby? Was there a big NIL market for him? I mean, I think the Big 12 as a whole was probably just everybody was having to defend because it's a great league of quarterbacks right now. But how much chatter was there about people trying to slide into his DMs at all?
Oh, his DMs were busy. I think his DMs have been busy all the way up through maybe the past couple weeks. If you've been following along at what's happening, if I had to guess.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, there was a really good team that, you could maybe highlight in neon green that was interested. And then another team that, they don't have to play in a conference, but they still need a quarterback that I think was probably interested as well. So, he definitely was a popular guy. And the good thing about Brendan is he's been very loyal to Cincinnati. That was tested last year, right before he had to enroll at Cincinnati after transferring from Indiana.
Right.
USC called and tried to get him to head out west to LA. And he said, look, I'm committed. I'm signed. I'm getting ready to start classes. So they've had to fight off a lot of heavy hitters for Brendan Sorsby. A lot of coaches around the country think very highly of him. So, that's a big plus for the quarterback position for the Bearcats.
Yeah, no, I was really excited to see him come back. I thought that was a massive deal for you guys. And so he's still got some refinement, but you can see there's a lot to like there for sure. I hate to bring the mood down, but there's obviously a very sad story going on in Cincinnati right now with the passing of Jeremiah Kelly, freshman football player who passed away unexpectedly. There's not a lot of details. Details don't matter, but just how's everybody kind of reacting and doing? Just a sad story anytime, there's a tragedy, somebody passes away suddenly. Just kind of, I guess, what's been the reaction to that amongst the Bearcats community?
It's been a very big blow internally. Freshmen, especially going, they've only been here for a couple months. They don't generally make a big splash impression. Jeremiah Kelly had a great smile, great personality. He was really, really well liked and respected quickly in the offensive line room. Not only that, but he was taking reps in the two deep at guard and center already. And he was supposed to, unfortunately, as sad as it is, like he should be going to prom right now, which makes it even more tragic. He enrolled early. He came in, he worked, had a great, demeanor about him, and guys were really drawn to him. And, I know I've heard from some people in that offensive line room that guys are devastated because he had come in and quickly assimilated himself into the program, into what it was, like being a college football player. He wasn't a guy that, they had to light a fire under him to get up in the morning and make it to workouts. He wasn't a guy that, a coach had to get in his butt all the time to get the motor revving. He was a guy that had a ton of promise. And you guys have been around this long enough. You do not see guys come from high school and instantly work themselves into an offensive line room. Usually it's, hey, we'll see you in 2 years. Enjoy your stay. And Jeremiah Kelly had already worked his way, pretty high up the depth chart. And everybody's been pretty devastated by it because he was a really good kid, a contagious personality, great smile. And it was a really rough one when that started spreading around yesterday morning. It's hit everybody pretty hard.
Chad, the NFL draft is tomorrow night. Corey Kiner, Luke Kandra, others. Who do you think is the most irreplaceable guy that they're going to lose? Kandra is Cincinnati to the bone. I mean, we talked to him at pro days, and my gosh, like I'm surprised that he doesn't bleed Skyline chili.
He might. Did you cut him?
No,
because if you cut him, he might have bled Skyline.
Yeah.
Luke is going to be very difficult to replace. Somebody that just gave you that constant, steady presence at guard. You never had to worry about him. You could run right over top of him. You knew he wasn't going to give up anything in the pass rush. Just a massive wall of a human that, I think it's going to be a challenge to just have anybody step right in. And, that's really the scary part. If you're a Cincinnati fan, not only is Kandra possibly to get drafted, but I think there's two others. John Williams, the left tackle that I mentioned, and then also D'Artagnan Tinsley, who was the left guard. A lot of NFL teams like as well. And if he doesn't get drafted, he will absolutely be a priority guy in free agency on the offensive line. So replacing three of those guys is going to be tough because they're all three NFL quality at right guard, left guard, and left tackle. And then, Kiner was special. Multiple 1,000-yard seasons, a guy that was great at the line of scrimmage. His contact balance was amazing. And, he did not, only like a handful, 4 or 5 times was he stopped for a loss all season. And he got hit quite a bit behind the line. He just knew how to keep his footwork, keep his legs moving, and in worst case scenario, get back to the line of scrimmage or pick up a yard so that you're not playing behind the sticks. So I think they did a pretty good job replacing him with Tyree Walker, who is a similar type player from Wisconsin, almost rushed for 1,000 yards in the Big Ten last year. But Corey was kind of a tone setter in the locker room, a guy that, everybody kind of looked up to and admired his work ethic and always had a smile on his face and never really complained. And you need those guys when you're establishing culture. So those are the 4 guys I think have an opportunity to get drafted. All 4 will be difficult to replace. But, man, Kandra came here with Satterfield from Louisville and instantly stepped in and had an amazing 2 years on that offensive line.
Yeah, those are some dudes right there. We really enjoyed talking to Corey and Luke at Big 12 Combine, and they represented the school very well. It was cool chatting with those guys. I love, you got so much cool stuff behind you. I like your set. There's a lot of cool stuff to look at. And you got this, I don't know what you would call that, the scrolling schedule thing that's got the.
I saw that.
Yeah, I love
it's
that.
Called a team ticker.
Team ticker. Okay, a team ticker. I love the team ticker. And it popped up at one point when I was looking at it, the Nebraska game, which I think was already probably pretty exciting. Nebraska's rolling into Cincy coming up to start the season. I imagine people don't need a lot of reason to get excited about that. But after Matt Rule popping off, does that add a little extra something to that to kind of we need to represent the Big 12 and kind of show him what's what after he's kind of bad-mouthing the conference a little bit?
That game's not in Cincinnati. That game is in the heart of Big 12 country.
It's in Kansas City, right?
Is it
Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City.
Okay. Well, thanks for correcting me. Okay. Good to know that.
Yeah,
good to know.
It was one of those COVID series that kind of got all jumbled up because there was supposed to be a game the COVID year that got canceled, and then they had to restructure some things. Then it was going to be an Indy, and then the people at Arrowhead called and said, "Hey, we'll give you an extra $2 million to move the game here." And Cincinnati said, "Where do we sign?"
Yeah,
sounds good. I mean, Matt Rule, what are we doing, buddy? Like, is there a more disappointing program in the past 15 years than Nebraska? They've been to what, one bowl game in a decade? How about you just shut up and win games? You guys know there's a little bit of like Matt Rule history, right? He coached at Temple.
Yeah, and then
Cincinnati
Baylor
was in the American.
Oh,
and they played each other a couple times. And 1 year, I think it was his last year at Temple. Temple won and ran their player. They won on a field goal at the last second, and their players ran down the Cincinnati sideline, taunting the Cincinnati players. So there's a little Matt Rule bad blood in there.
Well, hey,
that's a hell of a game. I'm glad to know that it's an Arrowhead, but that's a heck of a game. That's a big opportunity for Cincy right out of the gates.
It'd be a nice win, really, for both of you, whoever wins that game. Yeah,
and it's Thursday night of Labor Day weekend.
Nice.
So that's going to be a single, slot. Everybody, eyes of the country on that game on a Thursday night, right, leading into Labor Day weekend. So that's going to be an interesting one, and it could be a tone setter for Scott Satterfield. If they win that game, they get a lot of momentum. It reminds me of a game, Luke Fickell's second year. They had had a really bad year one. They went 4-8, but they could have gone 1-11, Luke Fickell's first year. And they opened that season on the road in the Rose Bowl against UCLA, and they grind out that win, Desmond Ritter's first start at quarterback. And they grind out that win, and that vaulted them to a double-digit win season and really kicked off the string of events that ultimately led to them going to the college football playoff and having 9 guys drafted in 1 year. It'll be interesting to, if they get that win in Arrowhead against Nebraska, hopefully that's some momentum that they feel.
Last thing, Chad, thanks for your time. Dan Skillings, we talked about the trade for a player to be named later with Avi Celestine going to Cincinnati. I saw him, and I think I even texted you. I watched a game in Waco where I thought he was very, very talented, very skilled. I wondered about some things, but we had him on. Seemed to be a really, really engaging young man. Your thoughts about him? Was he one of those that wasn't quite tough enough inside, or is that just an NIL thing?
No, I think with Dan, and I don't know if you guys talked about this when you had him on, but Dan didn't start playing organized basketball until late. So his first year really of organized basketball was his sophomore year in high school. And he elevated steps pretty quickly, which is you're 6'6" and you're long and you're athletic. Like if you put in the work, it's easy to kind of make meteoric jumps.
Yep.
And, it's after his sophomore year, he's honorable mention all Big 12. And I wonder if maybe he let up a little bit in the offseason. Not that he didn't work, but like the mindset of I'm playing catch up to the mindset of I'm at this level. I just wonder if maybe last year he worked on, he's wanting to develop other parts of his game. And I think that got him away from what made him who he was as a freshman and sophomore.
Okay.
Rebounding, doing a little bit of the extra stuff, being more of a part of the unit as opposed to like a focal point. And I think he struggled being top of the scouting report.
Okay.
The rebounding dipped. The defense, the attention to detail, some of that stuff dipped. But the talent is in there. If Dan gets back to, focusing on what makes Dan really good, I think it's in there because there's not many guys. His superpower from the wing is his ability to rebound. he will get some rebounds this year for Baylor where you guys are like, where the hell did where did his arm come from?
Mm-hmm.
He needs to worry about some of that stuff and just let the rest come naturally. And if he does that, he can get back to the point where he was, a 13 point per game scorer that got 6.5, 7 rebounds a game and really made an impact for Cincinnati 2 years ago. This past year, I just think he kind of got lost in it a little bit. And I'm pulling for him. I've liked Dan. I got to know him in AAU for Philly Pride when he was playing on the Under Armour circuit. I've always thought very highly of him. I hope he does well, but he needs to get back to what makes Dan Skillings great and not worrying about what do NBA scouts want to see. What are, take the outside noise and shut it out and go be great at what you're great at. And then I think he can be a very important piece for you guys.
Chad, great to see you, man. Thank you very much. When we need Cincinnati information, we go to Chad Brendel, BearcatJournal.com. We appreciate his time. Coming up, where we got him now.
Right now.
John Cooper from Our Lads Guide to the NFL Draft joins us. John, thank you for your patience. We appreciate it. How nuts is it right now with what's going on with people talking, if their lips are moving, they're lying, et cetera, between now and a little over 24 hours from now?
Well, it's every year is different, but it's there's always talk. There's always rumors flying. There's always media people that are bringing out things that they hear. I don't even know where it's all coming from. I mean, 1 year I tried to keep track of all the rumors just to see how many of them would come true. I quit doing that. It was, general manager once told me that, we listen to everything. We believe half of it, maybe half of it.
So a lot of the rumors are about Shedeur Sanders and like all those things. I just want to talk about his game with you. The knock is that he takes a lot of sacks. Sometimes, John, I feel like I hear this from scouts and they've just been watching the cut-ups and they haven't like put in the context of how an offense had to work to be successful the whole year. But Colorado's offensive line was so bad for 2 years that, yeah, I'm sure he did take some sacks. Maybe he didn't need to, but they couldn't run the ball. So how much does that get factored in scouts of like, yeah, he does some bad things, but this offensive line was trash?
Well, first of all, you have to take a look at the big picture. Obviously, he does a lot of things well, or we wouldn't be talking about him right now. The thing that I look at is what I call pocket presence. And what I see in him is that he doesn't have great pocket presence. I mean, he's a guy that kind of will he doesn't sense the rush real well. He doesn't move away from the rush real well. When he does move away from the rush, he's got a kind of a signature move that isn't really that good. He gives a lot of ground by flipping out, and that's where some of those sacks come from. He holds on to the ball for a long time. I'll give him credit. He's a tough kid. He'll stand in there, and he will take a hit. So that's a positive in some ways. But he's got to improve his ability to sense the rush. And obviously there's been a lot of rush. Because of, you're right, the offensive line hasn't been very good. Now, let's talk about what he does well, the redeeming qualities. He's a guy that can throw the ball outside the numbers, a 35, 40-yard ball on a rope. He can layer passes very well. He can hit balls in the deep outside, the deep intermediate, and just he's a very accurate passer. He can throw guys open against man coverage, and that's something that is not all that easy to do. And it's a skill that not all quarterbacks have, and he's got that. So with a clean pocket, this kid's going to be good. The problem is in the NFL, you don't always get a clean pocket. So, there's some things that he has to work on. Cam Ward has to work on some things too, but he's got a little bit more ability to create than Shedeur was, and he's more of a gunslinger than Shedeur. He takes more chances. Shedeur doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. So there's obviously strengths and weaknesses with these guys, and it just depends on what you want to work with.
John, let me stick with the quarterbacks and that guy who seems to be getting a lot of just at least first-round smoke. I've seen a couple mock drafts here. Jalen Milroe from Alabama. What stands out to you for better or worse in breaking him down as a prospect, and what are your thoughts on him as a potential first-round pick, they're late in the first half of the draft tomorrow night.
Yeah, the thing is with him, there's been a lot of criticism of him he's not an accurate passer. He's not this, he's not that. He's a great creator, though, with his feet, and he has flashed ability to make all the throws that an NFL quarterback has to make. He had some tough games, where he threw the ball into coverage. He wasn't real good, extemporaneously, as I like to say, in terms of where he ended up. But the athletic skill is there to be a great creator. There's another quarterback that all of these negatives were said about. His name is Lamar Jackson. Same stuff. And there's some Lamar Jackson in this kid. And he has a chance to develop into a really good quarterback. Now, that said, there has been some very poor play coming from him. But at the same time, there are flashes of terrific, outstanding play that a team can really benefit from if they can bring out the tools in him. And he's got a chance to be a good player. And it wouldn't surprise me if somebody drafts him in the first round. We liked him a lot early, but and he was very hot and cold this year at times. And so he's still the same player that he was middle of the season when we were thinking that this guy could be a first round pick.
John, when you see quotes, whether it's about Shedeur, who Paul brought up, or Milroe, I saw something about had he gone back to Alabama, some of the skilled people might have left. And again, these are anonymous quotes, or AFC scout, or so-and-so. Is that just trash? And what are your thoughts about the anonymous quotes about a player when they're about to be drafted in perhaps their next 3 to 15 years of playing pro football?
Well, you're dealing with, young men who aren't always the most mature guys. And some of these guys do things that, gets their teammates upset. I mean, let's talk about Jaden Daniels. I mean, Jaden Daniels looks like he's one of the best teammates you could possibly be. But they say when he transferred from ASU that everybody was cheering and they burned his jersey and all this kind. I don't know if they did that or he was the guy I'm thinking of. But I know there was a lot of negative stuff, anonymous negative stuff that came out about him. But I'll tell you what, Jaden Daniels is a terrific pro. So you got to take that stuff with a grain of salt, especially if it's second, third hand stuff. That's some of there's some stuff there, I'm sure. In some cases, we've heard some things about certain players that we haven't heard elsewhere. But you take it with a grain of salt and you make the decision based on what and you've got a pretty good handle on it because of some of the things that the NFL does in terms of security, in terms of finding out about these people. So, there aren't that many mistakes made, when you draft a guy. And sometimes there's certain things you simply live with because you want the player.
John, do you expect it to get crazy if the Browns and Giants don't draft Shedeur and we get to that fourth pick where New England has their quarterback in Drake May and they have a ton of other needs? Could things get exciting after that as far as moves go?
Yes, and for sure, because it's not only Shedeur that people might be looking at. Ashton Genty right now, we could see every team from about 4 on down to 10, 11, 12 wanting this player because he's pretty special. So it's not just trading up for a quarterback. There's other teams that are going to maybe trade up. There's going to be people who would love to get Abdul Carter in their building. Mm-hmm. Travis Hunter. I mean, there's some special players there that people would like to get. So, and it just depends on the team that has that player that they can pick. Are you willing to give that player up? And what can I get for that player? That's the bottom line. It takes two teams to tangle. And, it's not something that happens easily. There's a cost for each team.
If you could bank your paycheck on like you're not drafting for a team for a specific position, you don't we need you're just drafting the best football player in this draft. Who do you think that is?
Well, either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter.
Okay.
For different reasons. But those two are the thing I like about Travis Hunter is he's obviously extremely skilled. The fact that he can play both ways. He can impact the game in very many different ways. He's a great zone corner. He's a solid man-to-man corner. He's a terrific receiver, and he uses the receiving skills on defense with what he knows. I mean, this is a great guy to have in your building. Abdul Carter, the way he came on after never having played edge rusher and looking, I wouldn't say lost, but really out of place early in the season. A lot of people were wondering, why are you taking this elite off-the-ball linebacker and making him into an edge rusher? By the end of the year, you could see why. And he's only going to get better. So, I'll take either one of those guys. And it's a tough call. It's a really tough call.
If, in fact, Dallas at 12, if everything kind of goes according to plan, Matthew Golden or Teteroa McMillan?
Well, it depends on what you want. Do you want the speed receiver or you want the big receiver? If you want speed, the speed receiver, that downtown type guy, you're going to take Golden. If you want height with good enough speed and decent route runner and good hands, you're going to take McMillan. We like McMillan a little bit better, but we can understand Golden, and we think those are the two best receivers in the draft. And I think there's going to be some teams that want to trade up to get one of those guys too.
If, in fact, you're going to get him and you have CD on the other side, which does it matter whether it's Golden or McMillan based on tagging him with CD?
No, I don't think so. McMillan might be a little bit better fit in some ways, traditionally, but I'd take either one of those guys.
Okay, if I told you 5 quarterbacks go in the first 35 picks, would I be crazy?
That would surprise me.
Okay.
But anything can happen.
Yeah. I mean,
that would surprise me. That would really surprise me.
Because that would mean like Dart, Shuck, and Milroe, and maybe Will Howard get in those first 35, right?
Right. I could see 4. I can't see 5. But, hey, maybe.
John, one more question for me, and we appreciate you, man, throughout this lead up. You've been fantastic. Really, always have been. If you have a board and you rate it with all the players, positions, whatever, whether it's 1 through 100 or 200, or if it's the first round or whatever, position by position, but there's a red mark next to a name because of character issues. When do you say, hell, screw it, we need this guy, we need this position, he's talented, and overlook that, or is that just dangerous?
It depends on the team. It depends on the coaching staff. It just depends on what your philosophy is. I know, having been around some NFL teams and listening to people talk, some people say, hey, you know what? We're going to take the player. We're going to wave money in front of this guy's face, and he's going to perform for us, and we're going to make sure he does. We're going to give him some hard coaching, some 2x4s, and we're going to make a player out of this guy. And there's some that say, hey, no, we want character in our building, period, and we're not going to try to create character. And we don't see in this particular player character. I know there's some players that are, for some teams, they're off the board, simply because of that.
Right.
But there's also, some teams, it used to be Al Davis used to say, just win, baby.
Yep.
And so there's going to be some of that. I don't know how much of that there is with each team. I know certain teams very well. And I know, there's some guys that are going to be very, very careful about the character of the individual player.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate it. Enjoy. Sit back and enjoy. You guys have busted, to get a lot of this information out. Thank you as always, John.
Well, thanks for having me. Enjoy.
Yes, sir. John Cooper from Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft. I've known Jim Sabo, Dan Shonka, John Cooper from that great business over the years. When we come back, John Machota. I asked about Golden and McMillan. TheAthletic.com covers the NFL and the Cowboys, and he is next. And this is 365 Sports.
Alan Samuels.
Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. The end of April is around the corner. In fact, we're a week away. Can't believe that it's almost May. Alan Samuels, all of these incentives and dealer discounts and more available to you with CEO and General Manager Ted Teague running the dealership and David Gray running what are the sales department, or what is the sales department. This continues. Alan Samuels, 1.9% financing on the 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star or Laramie Crew Cab. Combination deal of $10,000 MSRP and 3.9% financing for 72 months. Also, there is the 72 months, or you can go straight up $15,000 off MSRP, and don't worry about the combo deal, so to speak, that I mentioned earlier. That's your choice. A large lot of cars, trucks, SUVs, and a very nice selection of pre-owned cars and vehicles, SUVs, and more. I have my Ford Explorer that I bought there back 5 years ago, in fact, later on in May. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
I have asked Paul Catalina why John Machota has not been a part of this show in quite some time.
We're beefing, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe a flu. Well, this, by the way, John, thanks for your time. I know it's a crazy time with the draft tomorrow night. So the Cowboys had their pre-draft press conference. You got to try to pull some things out of that, and I'm sure you did, and I'll let your feed. One of the notes that I thought that I went back and listened to it twice was Jerry talking about the offensive line that helps your running game. You know, you could have Ezekiel Elliott and a bunch of other guys that were really, really good players, but is that something that's front and it should be front and center all the time? Is that one of the front and centers this weekend?
I didn't really think that before he brought it up, to be honest with you, because I was kind of under the impression that they've done all these, now they're low level type moves in free agency to kind of give them depth and a bunch of different options to kind of sort things out at right guard in training camp. But when he said that, it made me think like, man, offensive line could be in play at 12. And I say that the way I just said it because I know that fans will be very disappointed with that. But from Jerry's standpoint too, he's going to say that because that's been the position they've had the most success with in the first round. Man, they sit there at 12 and they take a guard. Like, I just think people are going to be real disappointed with this team. And so maybe it's one of those things where, yeah, an offensive lineman like a guard / tackle could be in play if they traded back. I just find it very hard to believe that they're going to sit there at 12 and take an offensive lineman. I mean, I also didn't think that Brian Schottenheimer would be their next head coach. So this is an interesting time for Jerry Jones. It's not the same Jerry Jones that I think people were used to in the 90s.
So is substantive trades this year's all in?
Yeah, it's tough to say just because of the fact that I think selectively aggressive took over the all in from last year. You could tell that was a talking point in the offseason. This one is, I do think that they're having some discussions about trades. I just think that when you hear those words, you're thinking, you immediately, I can tell you this, standing there when he said it, my mind starts thinking of like, hey, who are the players right now in the NFL that have, proven players that could potentially be traded in the next day, in the next couple of months at the positions that they would need. And the two top ones for me are wide receiver and corner. So immediately I start thinking at corner, Jalen Ramsey, Jair Alexander. And then at wide receiver, I'm thinking Jamison Williams, if those, any of that talk rumor about him potentially being a guy that the Lions would be looking to trade, that maybe that would be somebody. Obviously, Tyreek Hill sounds like somebody that they'd be willing to move. Traylon Burks from Tennessee, who obviously hasn't worked out after being a high pick, Arkansas ties, obviously Jones family and all that. But I also think that when the Cowboys have made notable moves, they really haven't telegraphed them. Those moves have kind of come out of nowhere. And obviously Amari Cooper being number one on that list, but even the smaller ones, like there was really no inkling that they were about to trade for Trey Lance when they did, or when they just did the deal for Joe Milton, or even during the season for Mingo. They kind of came out of nowhere. And so I think it would be a deal closer to those than it would be on the Amari Cooper level. They've shown me nothing to think that they're going to do something aggressive for a player like an Alexander or a Ramsey, who have a pretty big contract, or a Jamison Williams that if you traded for, then you have to give him the pretty big contract. It just does not seem like how this team's been doing business for a long time.
John, Cowboys have done well in the draft, and they've found some nuggets, like diamonds. Where have they struggled? Because McClay has done a really nice job. They've missed some, of course. Everybody does. But where has been the Achilles?
Before I get to a position, I have to say the Achilles or the downfall has really been these last two draft classes. I mean, for a team that doesn't do very much in the offseason, that is as draft and develop as drafting and developing can get, you can't have two draft classes like their last two. Like you got to be hitting on some guys here. And these last two draft classes haven't been great. So when you start adding that up, this is a young man's game. They need to have a strong draft this weekend to kind of fill in some of those gaps. And so that's why you really don't want to see them reaching at any positions. Take the best players that are out there. That's been their best thing. To answer your question on where they've gotten into trouble, it's when they've tried to go out of their way to just fill a position. Mozzie Smith, hey, we need a D tackle. Let's take Mozzie Smith, or even, before that with Tristan Hill in the second round. Maybe, even though it's not the same coaching staff, obviously now they've changed quite a bit since Rod Marinelli, but the Taco Charlton pick, it just felt like, well, we need a DN and this fits, exactly what we do. And honestly, like even you can go to the second round there when they took Kelvin Joseph, because they didn't get a corner early and they needed a corner. And then to take Kelvin Joseph, it's like, that was just a wasted second round pick. And so when they've sat there and taken whoever's their best player, be it Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, that's when they've been at their best. And that's what they need to do with this draft too. The thing that's interesting to me about this draft is that what could be there for them at 12 could be the same type of player that's there for them at 20. And so there's a lot of things about this draft class that makes sense to me to move back if it's possible. And they've done that. Let's be honest. They've done that 2 of the last 4 years. They did it in Micah's draft, and they ended up with Chauncey Golston with their 3rd round pick that they got out of that deal. And then they just did it recently they moved back with Detroit and got Guyton, and then used the other 3rd round pick on Cooper Beebe. So I think that there's a pretty decent possibility that could happen as long as there's the phone ringing come tomorrow night.
Well, and John, at 12, like there are the possibilities of, okay, maybe you have Ted McMillan or Matthew Golden, and you take your wide receiver that you need. Or maybe, I don't know, I think Luther Burden's worth of drafting that high, in my opinion, but maybe they can get him later. But That is like right after that top bit of it, because I don't think they're going to get their running back at 12. Do you?
I don't. And where I look at their roster and what they've done this offseason and where their biggest holes are, I look at those first 3 days or those first 2 days. So the first 3 rounds, as they really need to come out of it with a running back, a wide receiver, and a corner. And so again, you don't want to be drafting like, hey, we need to go in there, fill in these 3 positions, our first 3 picks. So again, that's why I think trading back from 12 to let's say 16, 18, something like that, and getting an additional second or third, that allows you that, hey, now you have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds to potentially fill those, 3 spots. The problem I get into is that I don't think there's a corner worth taking at 12. And I don't think there's a running back worth taking at 12 either, obviously thinking that Ashton Genty is going to be gone. And so because of that, that's where wide receiver just makes so much sense, But you tell me that they trade back and then they gain an extra pick, I think that makes a ton of sense too, unless you're just absolutely enamored with McMillan, which I don't know if they are or not. But if that's their guy, then don't get, crazy. Just take your guy at 12 if that's absolutely who you want. But the thing with the receiver for me is that, when people talk about a team's draft, they talk about needs, and receiver is one of the Cowboys' needs, but it's really not receiver. It's number 2 receiver. And once those 4 guys are gone, wide receiver is not a need anymore. As soon as if they don't take Tet McMillan, Matthew Golden, Emeka Ibuka, or Luther Burden, like wide receiver should be off the board for them, because any of those other guys, they already have those guys on the team. They have Mingo, they have Tolbert, they have Cavante Turpin, Flournoy, Jalen Brooks. They signed Paris Campbell. They don't need any more of the guys that could be 3, 4, 5. They need a number 2. And so I just find it hard to believe that they would get out of the first round and still find a number 2.
John Machota with us, theathletic.com. The draft tomorrow. Cowboys have at least on the clock the 12th pick of the draft. Is there somebody that you get a feeling that Jerry is enamored with, that, my God, if he's there, he's going to run all the way to Green Bay, hug him and draft him and talk gush all over him?
I don't think so. And the reason I say that is because I just don't have a very high opinion of this draft class. I think it's a pretty boring class. I don't think there's a lot of names that move the needle. That's another reason why I think it makes a lot of sense to move back, because you could be getting somebody at 20 that you very easily could have taken at 9. And so if you told me the Cowboys would have lost a few more games at the end of the season, and let's say they were picking in the top 5, I think a Travis Hunter or an Ashton Genty could potentially be on that level, but I don't see anybody that would be there at 12. Like even if there is an offensive tackle or, like a D tackle, like let's say Mason Graham that falls, like I don't think that wouldn't be a player where you're like, oh, he's going to be blown away by this. This is such a big move. To me, it would have to be like someone like Travis Hunter.
See, John, that's where I get a little bit confused about where the Cowboys think that they are, which, as we know, based on, so-called drought, that the perception inside the Jones family and the reality of what they are seem to be 2 different things right now. Dak Prescott, this is likely his last contract with the Cowboys. So if that, based on NFL career histories and 5 years from now, like what it's really going to be. So why would this not be the time to go ahead, say, and I know they have a lot of needs, and say, damn the torpedoes, let's go get Genty or Hunter and do that for Dak. Like, and not to mention, like, look, if you have to give up a draft pick to get Travis Hunter, if you do it right, you've got 2 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah, I don't know why that they haven't operated like that for several years, because you talk about the Dak window, I talk about the 29-year window. Like, how are you the Dallas Cowboys and you haven't been back to an NFC Championship game in 29 years? Like, how is that not the motivation to? You don't have to look far. It's in your division to be as aggressive as the Philadelphia Eagles are. The Eagles don't talk about, when they make trades, it's because somebody else calls them. They don't call their teams. The Philadelphia Eagles don't talk about how, if we give Jalen Hurts this money, I don't know if we're going to have enough pie to sign these other guys. They make it happen, and they're not perfect. They miss on stuff too, but when they miss, they put a Band-Aid on it and they move on and they keep chugging along. And That's why they've become the standard in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. And so they don't operate like that. And the Cowboys don't. And it leaves me scratching my head. These last 2 off seasons are just like, man, like they're just a lot of very like basic kind of boring moves that are so un-Cowboys like, that the only reason why I would see that you would continue doing that is if in the last 6 or 7 years, you had won a Super Bowl doing it that way. Like you doing it that way, just being draft and develop really hasn't gotten you anywhere closer than you were when you were taking chances on, I don't know, making trades for Roy Williams or signing T.O. Like you're not any closer there either. So it's kind of wild. And just because I'm talking to you right now, Paul, I'll tie it in with, I've always said this and I'll say again, man, I saw the end of the Bobby Bowden era and the way he would talk about losses and to Wake Forest and close games against ACC teams they used to just blow out. And he would talk about how, they got good players too. And I'm like, that's not the Bobby Bowden I would have heard of in the 90s. And there's a lot of things Jerry says now that I'm just kind of like, man, that is not the Jerry Jones of the 90s. That's for sure.
No, it's not.
By the way, John, thank you for always, at least once a show, we bring up FSU and the Seminoles. Oh no, because of the disaster that we have seen from them. Thank you very much.
It's hard. Like John and I we're our own support group together.
100%.
Yeah, we are. We did send a picture of us to David Hellman at that SMU game to say that we were better FSU fans than he's an LSU fan, to taunt him a little bit. He said, like, that's dedication. I'd have left. But John, to that point, about like what they're doing, they can't really look at the last, I'll just say, of guys who are reasonably still in the team from 2019 on and really say that they've hit on a lot of guys. Now they've had a couple of like, really good ones, like, 2020 with CD and Trayvon Diggs and, and Tyler Biadasz, who of course obviously is gone, but, worked out for them. But then most of them are like, okay, in 2019, it was Tony Pollard and Donovan Wilson are the only things that worked out. Nothing else did. Tristan Hill was a bust. In 2021, you mentioned it's Micah Parsons and Osa Odigizua, and the rest of that draft class might as well not even be there, at all. So in the last few years, they really, really struggled to hit. And that's not withstanding injuries to guys like Sam Williams or Marshawn Nealon or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, like with Nealon, Sam Williams, DeMarvion Overshown, like those injuries have obviously been a huge part. I think back to 2 years ago, DeMarvion Overshown's rookie year, and when he got hurt up in Seattle in the preseason, I was like, yeah, that's a blow for them, but they're pretty good. And then you looked at what he's been when he's been healthy, and you're like, DeMarvion Overshown stays healthy. That could be the difference of them making a run that year. Maybe they don't lose to Green Bay in the first round. Maybe that's just an all-around better team than they were that year. But now, yeah, the injuries are a part of it. No question about it. And I also think that the injuries have factored in, if you read kind of in between the lines with Jerry, and when he talks about spending on free agents and stuff like that, and talks about the pie and how, yeah, if you give it to this player and then all of a sudden he's gone, then what is that for you? Like now all of a sudden here's, 15% of your cap that is not even on the field, not even contributing. So it's like he wants to spread it out amongst these young players on rookie deals, which obviously feeds right into why you would do the Joe Milton deal. And so that's fine, and I do think that's a sound strategy to be draft and develop, but you need to supplement it with a couple of taking some chances on some things that, yeah, you know what, 3-4 years from now, we might be in trouble because of it. And we might have to have some bad seasons because of it, but at least let everybody know that you emptied the clip, and I just haven't felt that way about the Cowboys in a long time, where I was like, man, they put everything into this. This is the team. There's every stone's unturned. They're trying to make every possible move that they're going for it right now. And I feel like fans would understand too, if they did that one year, that if there were some down the years that kind of sucked because of it, they would deal with it because, hey, at least they made the effort. And also, by the way, if you do completely just implode and it sucks, you get extremely high draft picks out of it, and to replenish things, and you can turn it around way faster in the NFL now than ever before. I mean, I'm pretty sure I was told that good luck with this Rams team turning it around after that. You know, they sold out and did everything to win that Super Bowl. Like, well, they're going to be paying the piper, you know, like I don't see that. They look like they're in just as good a shape as you are, if not better, you know? So if you have the right front office, you have the right group, you can turn it around pretty quick, even if you make a couple bad decisions.
I think he likes to be just good enough to make sure they're good enough, but doesn't want to go so bad because he still wants to be relevant. They tease the fan base, which they've done since the mid-90s.
Yeah, and like I said, they don't have the decency to be bad. They're going to be like Tinder right now, John. Like they don't need to be like, you know, hiring a matchmaker. They need to be swiping right on everything.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this. I'm glad that you guys mentioned that because, you know, we're in businesses now where, I mean, I can't compare to what happened in the 70s and 80s and 90s covering sports. I wasn't doing it at that time. But I would argue with anybody that we have a better way of knowing how the fans feel than ever before. And when I say that, I mean, it can be listeners to your guys' show. It can be clicks on my articles or people that subscribe. It can be reactions to things that I tweet. You do this long enough, you got a nice board set up of you can tell the interest in where things are at. And I'm going to tell you this right now. There is being in the middle does not get attention at all. That's where you don't want to be. You know, I talk to writers that cover, I mean, when we go out to the combine and you're around writers cover other teams, I'll tell you exactly the other team that's in that same boat with the Cowboys right now are the Steelers. And their fans aren't that real excited about, we're just kind of good enough. We're kind of in the middle. To be honest with you, there's a lot of interest, obviously the most interest if you're really good, but you have a lot of interest if you're bad. And the reason why is because the NFL's turned into 365 days out of the year. So as soon as you start getting awful, your fan base starts going and pouring into the draft and like, hey, we can turn this around. We just got to have a good draft. So actually, I get that Jerry probably feels that way, but to be honest with you, if that is the case, I think that's the wrong way to be. Being in the middle is not a good business decision.
No, listen,
not in sports.
Yeah, look, Ricky Bobby it, first or last,
right?
You know, like that's how you got to be.
Yeah, and he's made these comments about all in or all that, but it's like you're right. Just go for it. Literally be that way. And if it fails, at least you gave it a shot. Fans are smart enough to understand you tried. And if it takes a couple of years, you know what? Maybe there's a quarterback there or a great player that you get, and oh well. Good stuff, John. I know you got a busy not just 3 or 4 days. It's every day covering the Cowboys, but we do it. Great to see you again. Thank you for being a part of the show. Good
Absolutely,
luck with the draft.
guys. Great talking to you.
John Machota with theathletic.com on the Cowboys. And we appreciate it. A lot of talking to Chad about how they've sucked for a long, long time. They've teased people, but it's always been something. Now, Notre Dame quarterback Steve Angeli has committed to Fran Brown and Syracuse. There's a transfer portal note that all of our transfer portal information and stories brought to you by GXG Elite.
Well, I guess Ricky Collins isn't really setting the world on fire there, Garrett, if they're going out and getting Steve Angeli. Now, he's a senior, so he's got a little bit more experience, so that gives him a little more time with Ricky Collins to develop him. But, you know, and look, Steve Angeli didn't have as much time as Kyle McCord did, but you can see this is kind of what they're doing until they can find their guy at Syracuse. And that offense is set up for quarterbacks who know what they're doing. If you can walk and chew gum, you can put up numbers.
Yeah, I mean, nice pickup for them, I guess. I wonder, he said that they won't pay $2 million for a receiver. I know he's probably not. I say definitely, and then probably back to back. I would doubt he's paying $2 million to Steve Angeli either. But I am curious what the going rate is for a quarterback at this point. If you feel like you needed some help, seems like a pretty good guy to go out there and grab to add to your mix of guys that you're clearly not completely sold on or that you want to bolster. So feel like, you know, with UCLA, people can say what they want about the transfer portal, but like with UCLA, we're talking a lot more about Syracuse with the transfer portal. I mean, Fran Brown has a lot to do with that, but his activity in the transfer portal has been a large part of why we've talked about him for the last week or so. His comments on wide receivers, their pursuit of more players, including today landing a quarterback. So there's other reasons why we've talked about them, like their wins last year, and they're scheming with Dion to try to be those two teams that change spring football, which I think is still going to happen at some point in the coming years. But we're talking about Cuse a lot more. So nice pickup on paper. We'll see how it translates.
Remember, we went over their schedule, which we'll do next with Wake Forest. By God, we're going to try to get through the ACC.
We're still doing this?
Yes. No, we are. It's just that there's, but and we're going to do that. Garrett was trying to get me to do something. We could do the top. Well, who's left in the portal, but Max Olson will join us tomorrow, and Sam Kahn. They both do great jobs with that, about who's the highest rated player or 10 that are still among the top rated players in the portal who are there. We're going to come back. My God, this is taken like climbing Mount Everest to get to an ACC schedule. For those of you asking in advance, well, Craig will explain that and more. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for all of your automotive needs, and you can count on them if you're looking to get into a new or pre-owned vehicle right now as well over at Richard Carr's. They're celebrating, being in business for nearly 3 decades at this point in the Central Texas area, whether you're local or whether you're driving in from out of town, maybe you live out in the countryside, make your way over to Richard Carr. In the coming days, you will see all sorts of sales tags because they have been serving Central Texas for 26 years, and they are celebrating that with big savings going on right now, like $4,500 in savings on a 2025 Buick Encore GX. Also, hundreds in savings on 2025 Buick Envista, which was also a 2024 Car and Driver's Editor's Choice. A couple of those Buick models, hundreds, if not thousands, in savings going on right now. You can also save nearly $9,000 for qualified buyers on a 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models in stock right now. So those are just some of the offerings. They also can hook you up if you need to get some work done on your vehicle, whether that be something as simple as an oil change or if that's major body work after an accident. I can attest to their work myself. They do a great job over there. So they are your one-stop shop, but right now definitely pushing through the savings with the anniversary sales savings events. Locally owned, locally run, celebrating 26 years in the Waco area. Do business with a dealership that gives back to the local community and deal with people you can count on at Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
Sam Kahn, Max Olson tomorrow. We mentioned that. Mickey Spagnola tomorrow. Tim Brando will be a part of Friday's show. Interesting to hear his memories of Lee Corso and others, that Mike Patrick as well, that he worked alongside with at times in his career. Craig, the ACC, my God, it's taken us forever, like me trying to run a 40-yard dash. Here is Wake Forest.
Yeah, I mean, we took like a week break from it, so that's why it's taken long, is when you have a big gap in between, we can't get to the end of it, but I think we have finally managed to find our way there.
This is like popping the bubble right here.
So, for those just tuning in, I mean, this is not a intricate breakdown of the 2025 season for these teams, but we've just been going school by school, conference by conference, taking a glimpse into their schedule for 2025 as we started this back when schedules were being released. Now they've been out there for a while, but it's not a full-on diagnosis and prediction on next year. It's just looking at the schedule and seeing kind of the path that each team has taken, and then along the way retaining some information or maybe figuring some things out about who's playing who that maybe we didn't know prior to that. So just an off-season exercise to take a look around the entire country. And so we've been chipping away at the ACC, and we have found our way to Wake Forest, which, like I said, this isn't a breakdown, but there are some things to note with Wake Forest, namely that they have a brand new head coach as Dave Clawson stepped down during the offseason and made way for Jake Dickert to jump on over from Pullman and Washington State to become the new head coach of the Demon Deacons. So it is the Jake Dickert show starting this season. And what I find notable about that is not only do you have a new head coach, so one that's notable, but Wake Forest, just the third head coach since 2000, which if you were doing that in 2010 would not be that big of a deal. But given that it's been 25 years, this is only their third head coach in the last 25 years. They had Jim Grobe for well over 10 years from 2001 to 2013. And then Dave Clawson, who just wrapped up his 2014 to 2024 run there. So, this is new to have a new coach for them. It doesn't happen very often, and it's only the third time in 25 years. So we'll see what Jake Dickert can do. And by the way, should mention Steve Angeli will play Notre Dame next season. That is, I think, the next to last game. Rolling back to that as we're talking ACC schedules. Syracuse does play Notre Dame at the end of the year. For what that's worth, just kind of tying that together. But what about Wake Forest? Are they going to see Steve Angeli? No, unless it's in the ACC championship game. But who they will see up first is on Friday, August the 29th, Kennesaw State. I feel like they're on everybody's schedule that we've done so far. I've said their name at least 10 times. I think we've gone over their entire schedule without trying to. But Kennesaw State there in Winston-Salem on a Friday night is how they will kick things off. Then on Saturday, September the 6th, it'll be Western Carolina, also at home. And then another home game, Thursday, September the 11th. It will be North Carolina State taking on Wake Forest. So 3 games, and then your first bye week on Saturday, September the 20th. So you have a bye week within the first month. You also do not leave your home stadium over the course of that first, month or so, because they still have a September 27th game. But 3 home games to start things off with: Kennesaw State, Western Carolina, NC State, and then that early bye week. But what's also of interest is it's a Friday, Saturday, Thursday schedule to start things off with for Wake Forest, which is kind of unique to be playing on 3 different nights. So there will be weekday games if you're a Wake Forest fan. The good news is those 2 non-Saturday games are those 2 games that I mentioned. The rest of the schedule is all Saturday. But thoughts on the first trio of games for Wake Forest?
Is that tailgating smoke, or is that like clouds in the sky? What is that right there?
I think it's clouds.
It's clouds.
I mean,
it's clouds. I mean, because there's trees.
Okay, just asking. I was
All right.
a little worried about
All right.
them around that stadium.
Again,
I thought it might be like a barbecue pit.
I'm just going to ask you,
that's my attention deficit.
While you're still cogent, while you're still with us, just start looking at homes that we can put you in that you would like. Like,
am I the only one that
here's the
saw
thing.
that graphic and thought there might be something that's not clouds?
No, I thought clouds. I'm just saying, look, I want you to be able to pick the home you're in and don't make us all pick it for you.
I know. No, yeah, I've got time.
Okay, because we'll do it.
Hey, you're the one that's getting old.
You're way older than me, so I just want to be able to help out.
Always will be until the day that I'm not.
No, this should be a 2-1 start for them, at least. Again, NC State and Wake Forest are kind of in the same boat here. NC State, obviously not with the new coach, but as far as the roster goes and all that, they've both been more victims of the transfer portal than they've been beneficiaries of it. That's for sure over the last few years. So, we'll see. But it is nice that your first, the first month they don't get on a bus, they don't get on a plane, they don't get on anything, nothing.
Nope. All at home. So that ought to be nice for them. Then they return home after that first bye week. Four games right out of the gates, all at home, and a bye week. So 5 weeks of never leaving home as they will welcome in the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets on Saturday, September the 27th. So that ought to be a tough game on paper for them at least. Saturday, October 4th at Virginia Tech as they hit the road for the very first time on October the 4th. So that's definitely an interesting start to the season for them. And then they will be traveling a little bit as they will go from Blacksburg, Virginia, all the way across the country on Saturday, October the 11th to take on the Oregon State Beavers at Reser Stadium there in Corvallis. And that ends their second 3-game stint. So they have a 3-3-6 schedule. And there is no exact science with this. We've had every single combination I think you can imagine at this point for the most part. But for what it's worth, they are a 3-3-6. So 3 games, bye week, 3 games, bye week, and then 6 straight that we'll get to. But Georgia Tech at Va-Tech at Oregon State they round out the non-conference there.
That's kind of late.
They don't round it out. They have another non-conference game actually later, deeper, very SEC stylish. But there you go.
Isn't that kind of late to have a non-conference game, your 6th game of the year in a conference? Yeah,
well,
I know you have the rivalry games sometimes at the end.
Well, it's nothing compared to the November 22nd non-conference game they have. It's a little bit late in the year. If that's late, then that one's very late in the year.
Yeah, they're trying to tuck their SEC. Hide a game away from everybody. They only play 8 conference games. Again, I've said this. Why doesn't the ACC get more criticism for 8 games and the SEC gets all?
Because they're not as good.
Because they're not winning a bunch of national championships.
Not as good. I mean, Wake Forest only plays 8 conference games. Wake Forest isn't out there complaining. They're not saying oh, you guys don't know how hard this is in the ACC.
Yeah.
They're not. The reason the SEC gets criticized for it is, whenever any kind of minor strife comes their way, they're like, our life is so hard.
Yep.
You don't know what it's like.
We have to cut with a spoon.
Yeah. We walk uphill both ways in the snow. It's hard
Backwards.
in the SEC.
Yeah.
It's sad. The ACC is just like, hey, we're happy to be here. Thanks a lot.
Can we please still be included in the future?
That was messed up what you did a couple years ago, but we don't like them anyway. So,
well, you got a couple of Techs back to back against Tech, and then that game you said that's kind of tucked a little bit into the schedule.
But they, look, this is I like some of the moves they've made as far as building out the roster, but it's still going to be year 1 for Jake Dickert. So I expect this to be a bit of an up and down situation, but. As non-conference games goes, he's going to know Oregon State when he goes out there. So kind of he would know them better than the previous coaching staff would. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there will be some familiarity there. So at Oregon State, middle of the season non-conference game, then their second bye week, and then the 6th straight to close the season, which is not all ACC games, as I mentioned, but it will be as they get back to work and take on SMU. They're in Winston-Salem. Then it's to Tallahassee against Florida State, to Charlottesville to take on Virginia. Then back at home, taking on North Carolina in a Big Four game. Then that late non-con, very SEC-esque late non-conference game there on November the 22nd. Back at home, it will be Wake Forest and the Delaware Blue Hens, and they make it back-to-back Blue games, as then they will travel on Saturday, November the 29th to Durham, North Carolina, another Big Four game to meet up with the Blue Devils. So from Blue Hens to Blue Devils, and that is all she wrote. So they have 6 straight to close the season, and some road trips to Tallahassee, to Charlottesville, and to Durham in that 6-game stretch. But that's how it works. 3-3-6 non-conference against Kennesaw State, Western Carolina, Oregon State on the road, and then Delaware. They do avoid playing Miami. They do avoid playing Clemson. They do avoid playing Syracuse. Those are just some of the schools that they will miss out on playing with this year's schedule.
And no California schools.
And no Cali cross-country, trips to Stanford or to Berkeley.
But they're playing
in Corvallis.
Corvallis, okay. So they do have a long trip, but not the 2 schools.
Yeah,
in
but
their
after you get
conference,
4 straight, 5 straight weeks to start the season in a bye week where you don't have to leave.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's pretty good.
So one cross-country trip before another bye week and a home game shouldn't be that rough on the guys.
No, I mean, they'll be 2-1, if not 3-0 to start the season, and then they'll get a break and they'll feel good about being 2-1 or 3-0, and then we'll really get a taste when they get that second 3-game stint, and then we'll see where they are on the other side of having gone to Corvallis and having played Georgia Tech, and we'll see about Virginia Tech, but that's in Blacksburg. So, they won't figure out until late September of what this team really even looks like against, sturdy competition. But that last 6-game stretch, I mean, we'll see where they are, if they need 2 wins to make a bowl game in year 1 or wherever they are, but it does ramp up towards the end.
I think they've got to be 4-2 out of the second bye week if they want to finish 6-6. If they're 3-3, I think they're playing a little fast and loose with that. Now, I mean, not that it's that much harder, but I think if they're 4-2 out of the first 6, this is a bowl team. If not, then I think they're gonna probably hit a wall.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, because they'll beat Delaware, but beyond that, I don't think there's definitely not a gimme game. Strongest you'd feel about was Virginia, but that's on the road, and I don't know, but they'll be on paper. This is what this exercise is. Like I said at the beginning, it's not full blown predictions, but they'll be in some trouble if they don't come out of that non-conference 2-1 or 3-0, which I can't imagine they won't. But there's your schedule for Wake Forest in 2025.
Well, I don't know how they're going to be able to put up with that schedule. They have SMU, who's going to give them all they have, and then have to deal with the Red Hot Seminoles the week after that.
Oh, that was the other gimme win. Never mind. They'll definitely win 6. I think I played Florida State.
By the way,
you know what? I'll tell you that since the end of the Bowden, they used to absolutely trash Wake Forest, no problem. But since the end of the Bowden era, Jim Grobe started this where that was kind of their big moment, and Florida State will never, ever, no matter what the coach is, who the iteration of the team, will never get excited about playing Wake Forest. Never. And the fan base won't. And they don't look at the recent history. It's the same with Georgia Tech. Wake Forest and Georgia Tech, for whatever reason, the fans care less about those games. And then more often than not, lately, those are the ones that jump up and bite them. And they're and then we're how do we lose to Wake Forest? Because you don't care. You gotta get some, respect, for these teams in there. So
yeah, Grobe did a good job at Wake Forest until eventually it ran out of gas. They're the Demon Deacons. Was there any during some of these changes in mascots like Devils and stuff like that? Was that ever? I love the name. I think it's great. Was there ever any
come after that?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I mean, it's a Baptist school, so you would think that if anybody was going to get mad about their name of being the Demon Deacons, that it would be their own people.
I love their name. All right, thank you, Craig. Tomorrow is it Notre Dame?
Yes.
We're going to get through the ACC Plus, right? This is going to be a
magical. Their friend with benefits.
We might get Notre Dame tomorrow if Paul and Craig will just stay the course. When we come back, we'll have Paul's top 5. And what did the polls tell us today? This is 365 Sports and Ideal MRI, a fantastic business. Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners with a business that can help you find out what is hurting you to a point where it shuts you down. Whether it's your shoulder, your lower back, maybe around your neck and spine, and then it might be your hip or your foot, your knee. Something's wrong. A ligament is shredded, torn, or just a muscle that's bruised, or maybe something else, or an MRI that can say everything looks fine, and then they could figure out another diagnosis of why you have pain that doesn't allow you to sleep well, or you can't walk right, or you just have something going on. Go there. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace, just off I-35 in the southern part of Waco. $497 is the cost. The average MRI is $1,100 or more. And they also will get you in, get this appointment, and you're not going to wait long when you walk to the front door. If it's a 1 o'clock appointment, you're not going to be there at 2:30 waiting for others to be done. Very efficient, fantastic when it comes to your budget and wallet at idealmri.com.
Escape into fitness with the Schwinn IC4 bike, providing a premium, heart-pumping indoor cycling experience that combines digital connectivity with superior Schwinn quality. The IC4's smooth, quiet ride features magnetic resistance with 100 micro-adjustable resistance levels, an intuitive resistance knob, a beautiful backlit LCD display, adjustable race-style seat, dual-link pedals with toe cages, and a pair of 3-pound dumbbells with easy-reach cradles. Place your phone or tablet on the media rack and keep them charged with the IC4's convenient USB charging station. Extra-large dipped handlebars for premium grip, and dual water bottle holders for staying hydrated. The Schwinn IC4 comes with a slim, comfortable, Bluetooth-enabled heart rate armband that continuously monitors heart rate to help you stay within your target zone. But the best part about the IC4 is premium digital connectivity. Digitally immerse yourself in a world of virtual races, exotic locales, and stunning trails from around the globe. With connectivity to cycling and coaching apps like Peloton, Explore the World, and Zwift, with the Schwinn IC4 bike, you can ride with Peloton at a fraction of the price. Don't limit yourself to one digital experience. Pedal through dozens of scenic destinations, controlling your pace by speeding up or slowing down. Fitness was never meant to be put in a box, and neither were you. Escape the everyday with the Schwinn IC4 bike, your ticket to a life well lived.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Ticket Club. Forget the fees, just big savings. Click the link in the description to find out more.
Welcome in. Today we finish out the mock draft, which means picks 26 through 32. That is 2 extra slots in the top 5 today. I don't know what you did to earn this. I don't know. You're just a great audience, I guess. I'm giving you 2 for free today. You can thank me through cash. Number 26, the Los Angeles Rams. A lot of needs here. Wouldn't surprise me to see them, if Jackson Dart is on the board still, take Jackson Dart or maybe trade back. They've got to think about the quarterback of the future. Matt Stafford is 37 years old and almost tried to force a trade in this offseason. But I think they go defense. They get the best linebacker on the board, Shahad Campbell from Alabama. This guy's all over the field. He's a beast. He's a monster. He played for Nick Saban. What more do you want behind a defensive line that has 2 really young, exciting players in Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, who I love dearly like they're my sons. Number 27, Tyler Booker, guard, tackle, Alabama. He can probably plug in at guard first year and help out the Ravens, who have got some age on that offensive line. The Ravens just right there knocking on the door, looking for that last little push to get in the AFC Championship game. Of course, the Bills and Chiefs exist right now, too. That's been a problem for them. But help out your running quarterback, help out your great running game. Get Tyler Booker from Bama, plug him in up front, and watch him grow as a player. Number 28, a guy who last year, if you had told people who's going to be the number 1 pick overall, they would have said James Pierce from Tennessee. Now, he's got some character questions that have caused him to fall. How that pans out, I don't know. But the Lions, Dan Campbell loves dogs. This guy gets after the passer really well. I see them taking him here. If not him, maybe Nick Scorton from Texas A&M, a fellow Aggie for Dan Campbell. But James Pierce Jr. probably doesn't get out of the first round, and this is the floor I see him going. Number 29, Washington Commanders. Garrett, feel free to chime in if you like this pick, but they've had some shifts along the defensive line, some guys that were there in the previous regime that have gotten older and they've moved on out. I think Walter Knowlton, defensive tackle, Ole Miss, a nice fit for them. Picking at 29 is a weird spot. You're essentially in the second round already, but this guy's a first-round talent, was the highest recruited player in the country just a few years ago, and someone who I think can help out Washington right away. So, Walter Nolan, defensive tackle, Ole Miss, at 29. Garrett, do you approve?
I definitely approve of this. I think this would be a great asset in addition to this defense, and lock up the front where you've had some turnover, get youthful there. And yeah, I like this pick that happens.
There you go. Okay. Number 30, Buffalo, Luther Burden, wide receiver from Mizzou. Luther Burden, Keon Coleman, Shakir. This is a great group. Dalton Kincaid at tight end. They have some weapons for Josh Allen now. Wouldn't surprise me to see them go cornerback here either, but I think Luther Burden's just too good and can do too many things that fit well in that Bills offense with Josh Allen. And Luther Burden, look, he might go as high as 11, 12, 13, but I I do think he doesn't fall out of the first round, and the Bills snag him if he's there at 30. Number 31, Nick Scorton, defensive end, Texas A&M. Wouldn't shock me here to see the Chiefs trade out of this pick for a quarterback-desperate team if it's going that way. They don't have a ton of needs, but they need to get younger on the defensive line. This is a really good player. He was great at Purdue. He was great at A&M last year, and I thought he might even go a little higher, but he is someone who can help out the Chiefs right now as their defensive line. A little bit of transition, a little getting older, so they get younger and more efficient up there. At number 32, I'm going to predict a trade. I can't believe I'm saying this. Garrett, I cannot believe I'm saying this.
Oh,
Tyler Shuck is going to be a first-round draft pick as Philadelphia trades the pick to Cleveland, and they draft Tyler Shuck, quarterback at Louisville, to prevent somebody else from coming up and getting them. Cleveland has, the next pick or the pick right after that one. I think Cleveland trades back into the first round and gets Tyler Shuck and tries to make him the quarterback of the future. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but there's a ton of buzz around Tyler Shuck, and clearly none of it's from doctors. But he's a really talented player. The only reason I actually wouldn't draft him in the first round based on his skill set is because he's only made it through one season completely healthy, and that was just last year. Mm-hmm. But I also would have said the same thing about Michael Penix Jr. a couple years ago. I love him, so I think I'm going to roll the dice on Tyler Shuck here and say he gets picked at 32 in the first round. That's it for all my bold predictions in the first round. Garrett, how many of these do you think I'll get right out of 32 picks?
I'll give you 17.
17?
Yeah.
I was going to say 8.
I'll give you 17.
You're going to give me 17 correct picks. Okay. We're going to go back through and grade this on you know what? On Friday, we'll be able to do this. So Friday's top 5 will be how Paul did in the first round of this draft. And mind you, I didn't predict a lot of trades, but Garrett says 17. I say 8. Emery, shout out how many you think I'm going to get at 32. 5.
Damn.
Emery,
yes, no
Emery says 5. Oh, man. I've got some work to do. All right. That's going to do it. We're back tomorrow with another show. Smokey, tell the good people what they can do next.
It's hard. I mean, you never know because trades can screw things up. But I just think how many players you'd say are going to get drafted is hard enough out of 32. With you never know what's going to happen. Emery with his -5. But very nice, Paul. Very nice.
How many do you think I'll get out of 32?
I say 11.
11? Craig, how many do you think I'll get?
No, you're talking about player to team.
Player to team. Okay. How many 32 picks that I'll get right?
I say 11.
4.
4. Ooh,
oh, my
man.
God.
That's even harsher.
That means there's a trade we don't expect that just throws everything into a quandary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
Garrett, how do you spell quandary?
I have no clue.
Quandary.
Quandary.
Yeah. Okay. It's what we do. Thank you very much. We still have the polls from our young whippersnapper. Here is who should the Titans select number 1? I don't even think this is okay. 54. I thought it'd be like 70. Cam Ward, and then there's Travis Hunter, then Ashton Genty and Shedeur Sanders. 159 votes. Very well done, and thank you for the feedback on that. And Andrew, thanks for putting that one together. And the other one, between Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck, who would you draft first? 46% say Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback. 39%, neither one in the first round. And then Shuck with 9%, depends on the system, is at 6%, kind of a default opportunity there with the 6%. 133 votes. Very well done, Andrew. Thank you very much for putting this up, and thank you for those of you who are getting involved in that as well. Our great sponsors, those of you, whoever you are, we appreciate it. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And tomorrow ought to be fun. It's NFL Draft Day for Garrett Ross and also Emery Winter. Thanks to Andrew Valade and our great sponsors. For Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, tonight, 10:30 on the local CW 365 Sports Tonight. I'm David Smoak. Good night.